I believe we are live on YouTube now, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. You're all set? Very well, then I'll call the we're back in regular session, and I'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. We're going to move now to delegations, presentations, and petitions. We have an update from our CAO on the COVID-19 situation. Michael?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen. I'll just wait for the host to enable access and then, perfect.
Okay.
I think everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, members of council, and for the public. And just want to give, for everyone's benefit, a general overview, and I'll be very brief today, just an update in response to the pandemic that the municipality has taken to date. So in this agenda, there's just a few topics that I want to highlight for the benefit of council and the individuals watching, or for the benefit of our residents, and just go over a few of the topic headings that I think are important. A few things that have been happening since the outbreak. The state of emergency that Middlesex Centre declared has remained in effect since almost a year now. It's first was initiated back on March the 17th, and so that remains in effect. As a result of that, the emergency control group has continued to meet since the onset. And so we meet every Thursday, and that happens, that's been happening on a weekly basis throughout the entire time up until now, consisting of members of the senior staff, our deputy mayor and the mayor, members of other agencies and groups like the health unit, and members of the police and the county. And we all come together to review interests and make decisions in the best interest of the municipality, taking the advice of the police and the health unit and the information from the province. All of the information is updated on our municipal website, and we do a really good job keeping it updated on a day-to-day basis. So if anyone's interested to learn about our amenities or learn about actions that are being taken, they can go to our website at middlesexcentre.on.ca/COVID-19. And communications is generally provided almost on a frequent daily basis to staff and council, and just on the updates that have been happening and all the changes in legislation and regulations. And so in addition to the emergency control group, staff and council are updated on changes that happen on a day-to-day basis. Provincial declaration of emergency was declared for a second time just recently, and that took effect a few weeks ago. And over and above the province-wide shutdown, which was declared on December 21st, some of the notable differences are noted in this presentation, which is available on our website, just putting in place more stringent measures. And this is in response to the framework that the province has put in place in regards to this province-wide shutdown. And I can say that the municipality has done a very good job being flexible and nimble as an organization, responding to all of these changes that take place, and taking the guidance from the province and from stakeholders like the health unit, where we receive the direction and we dissect it and we analyze and we do what's best in the best interest of our residents. And it does affect our services and how we operate, but we've done a good job up until now. So I commend staff and council for reacting the way we've done. The stay-at-home order, I'm not going to allude to it too much, but I know the province has really put a push on to share messaging in terms of what the stay-at-home order means, and the municipality will be sending more information out in the next day or so in terms of communicating and educating the public. But particular details about the stay-at-home order can be found in the attached presentation, again on our website, and the links are in relation to the regulations that are therein. But the municipality is going to be doing its part to help share the messaging and broadcast the advice from the province in terms of trying to tell everyone to do their part, stay at home, and be safe. So we'll look out for that. That'll be exciting for us to do our part. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but when the pandemic first arose late at the beginning of last year, and as things proceeded, the senior team and council came together and we did a good job in terms of identifying how we would react in terms of closing and opening and closing amenities, kind of like a yo-yo. And so we've done a good job in terms of identifying how we're responding. And so the information is on our website in terms of how we identified Project Restart after the first phase. And now we've had to contract again in response to the second phase that's happening as a result of the pandemic. But we are very fluid in how we're operating, and we're very mindful of how we provide service to the residents, making sure that we provide good service and that we do it in a safe and secure manner. Just want to give a very brief overview about the municipal operations affected by the state of emergency. All public serving facilities at the present time are closed as a result of the shutdown. The municipal office is closed to the public. We do have services that are available online that we've pushed and by appointment on appointment-based needs. So we are willing to and we want to accommodate our residents based on the type of need that's warranted, and we will do our part to meet with them in a safe manner. Once the emergency comes to a close, we'll look at slowly and safely reopening our outward-facing services. But for the time being, we're following along with the guidelines of the province. We do take a hybrid approach, though. So residents will notice that where we can do so with the guidance of the health unit and where we think people can safely distance, we will keep certain amenities open. Up until this week, the weather was cooperating where we were able to have such amenities like our playgrounds open, our walking trails are open. So where we can align with the province, we do the best we can to keep our amenities open to the public. The continuity of essential services has been paramount, and I commend all of our staff, not to identify certain, but I think everyone's done a very good job in trying to keep the operations fluid. And so we do have our water, wastewater, our snow plowing, among others, will continue to operate. There's no break in service, so I can assure the residents and council that we're continuing to follow through and keep our operations at a steady flow, continuing to move forward. There could be some changes in the way we're operating from a staff perspective, and that's all about being flexible and nimble as an organization, where we might have certain shift changes or where our working hours may differ. But the priority is to maintain good public service to our residents, and that has not wavered throughout this whole pandemic. The building department has continued to operate, and we continue to see construction activity. It has risen, and some construction activity has been maintained for permits that were opened prior to the declaration. And all other future activity is on pause right now. And that gives our building department a bit of a breather to play catch up, because as I said, we are quite busy in that regard. The operations for municipal staff at a high level, our full-time staff have continued to work throughout the pandemic. It's been a seamless transition for those who work remotely. All staff have received formal health and safety training. We want to make sure our staff are safe, our residents are safe, and so that's been one of the updates that I can provide council and the public is we're keeping on top of all of our health and safety measures. And outside staff have transitioned back to work, and they're working their normal working shifts. Proper training, cleaning and safety protocols have been established, and so we're taking that very seriously. We want to make sure that our staff don't get sick, and so we've got very stringent protocols in place now. And happy to report that we have daily COVID screening protocols, which we had initiated way back last year, but we've also had an opportunity to automate our processes as well for staff and the public. So if staff or the public, especially for the residents entering into any of our municipal facilities, they may come across a signage at the entrance, and it will be as QR code. And this is something that's easily done. It's a very quick questionnaire where you can take a picture of what you see on the screen here, and you can take a picture, go through the 5 or 6 questions, and then proceed to receive the service. And that's something that we're going to continue to maintain for the foreseeable future. But it's we've received many compliments on this automation. Contractors are using it, the general public are using it, and it's a seamless transition to use and very easy. And what it does is it notifies, it gives the green light versus the red light. And that way, if someone answers the question wrong, then it'll really put a pause in terms of how they can kind of think about if they're going to be receiving that service or not. So it's worked out well. Many other businesses are adopting this type of protocol. And so I'm proud to say that we were one of the first in the county to automate this process. I am unfortunate to say that some staff have been identified to be placed on emergency leave during the state of emergency. It was a decision not taken easy, but it was for the best benefit as a result of closing our amenities. And so we have identified certain part-time or contract staff that are placed on the infectious disease emergency leave protocol under the federal government programs. In total, there are 26 employees that are impacted, and they're mainly from the Community Services Department. Once the state of emergency is over, we will then look at bringing our staff back in terms of how we open up our services. And again, it's a very flexible and safe approach. So it is unfortunate, but we are very mindful to make sure that we're doing it in the best interest of the corporation. In terms of some fiscal preparedness, we've had monthly reporting since last year, and our CFO has done a very good job to track revenues and expenses. We've put in place cost containment strategies that have been implemented. With the approval of the budget, we're able to keep our full-time staff employed, and they're starting to work on those projects already. So we've got a head start and a jump on our budget items. And we have received some funding from the Canada Safe Restart program. It's done in 2 phases. The first phase was in the amount of $357,000 for a capital project and for community services. And we have phase 2 funding to help us with our PPE and for any other ancillary expenses related to COVID. So there is some money to help us offset, but we are tracking very closely to make sure that we maintain our fiduciary duties to make sure that the municipality is in its best position forward. Part of this presentation, I would like to get some council direction. Our team is thinking about the best interests of our community and our residents. And the upcoming property tax installment for February is due February 26th. And our staff reviewed this, and we've putting this proposal out to council. And we are suggesting that we amend this date to March 31st to provide some reprieve to our residents during the state of emergency. Should council concur, we would prepare an amended interim tax bylaw, which will be placed on the next council meeting agenda, acknowledging this date change. The utility billing for January will also be moved and due on March 31st. And I think it'll help align the due dates for our residents, but also give a bit of a breather, because we all know this is abnormal times and some tough times. So I just wanted to throw this out for council, and we think it's a good way for the municipality to do its part to support the well-being of our residents.
Sorry?
If you'd like, I can circle back when I'm done. I've got a few more slides, and we can get the council's consensus.
All right, we'll come back to that then.
Perfect. Impacts to council meetings. As you can see, we are meeting remotely. Unfortunately, it's going to be like this for the foreseeable future. On the bonus, we have adapted well to using new technologies. And the Municipal Act does enable us to use this type of technology, and it's something the clerk can explore in terms of how we can make sure we have greater inclusion in how we conduct our meetings and making sure that we're doing further outreach to residents. So it's a consideration that we can look at on a go forward. And I am looking forward to the day when we can come back together in person in a safe manner. But for the time being, we are moving business forward, and it is working. Just finally, we are continuing to meet as an emergency control group. That's not stopping, and it's going to continue for the foreseeable future as well. We are monitoring and responding to provincial and health unit direction and guidelines and protocols, and we have constant communications with them. And I think the communications has been key throughout this pandemic, and we'll continue to maintain those positive dialogue and communications. And the positive side to this is now that there's been talk of a vaccine and the province is now starting to roll out the vaccine in various phases, the municipality will do its part, and we can assure our residents that when called upon, whatever we can do to help get the vaccination distribution out and about, the municipality will step up and we will do our part to provide assistance as needed. We will ensure our municipal staff are equipped to return to work properly, and we've been doing that. We have the proper supplies. We're providing flexible working arrangements to make sure that we can maintain good public service. And as I said, we have our municipal website that is updated with all the protocols, with all the changes. If residents are interested in the amenities and what's open, what's closed, and how we're preparing and operating as a municipality, everything can be located on our municipal website. So very high level for members of council, but I just wanted to give council and our residents an overview of how the municipality is operating through the pandemic, since we're coming up on almost a year, unfortunately, but we are staying strong, we are staying united, and we're going to continue to face this and operate efficiently as possible. But I will circle back just to see if there is a council consensus to update the due dates, just to make sure that council's in agreement. If they wish, we will take that as direction and we can update the due dates for the tax bills.
Okay, and that was what, slide 14?
Yeah, I've got it up here, Madam Mayor.
Here it is, yeah. So really what I see here is that we're taking into account the needs of our residents. I see that we're actually keeping, by doing this, people won't have to come in and pay. So we're actually contributing to health and safety for our staff. And the cost, on the cost side, it's marginal. The cost of 1 month, 30 days for those people who would come in and pay, that is probably a small thing in the big picture of things. So does anyone on council have any concerns with the proposal that has been presented to us with respect to the tax? Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Yeah, I just, my only concern would be going forward, if this prolongs longer than we're anticipating and it goes on into March, then we're into, you know, either advancing it to April or not. I know last year when this all started, we left the dates the same, but we didn't, we took off any late charges or any interest payments for late charges, so that the people that wanted to or could pay on time were able to. And if anyone required assistance or wanted delays in it, they had that option to contact staff and go forward with that. So those are my only concerns, that if this goes on longer, then we're into another delay. And I think for consistency, if we did the same as we did last year, where we said, you know, these are the dates, but if, you know, if you're late, there'll be no late fees or no interest fees if you're late paying. And if you need assistance in paying your taxes or water bills, contact the office and they can maybe work on a payment plan. That's just my thoughts.
Did you want to comment, Michael, or?
Yeah, sure. Just that's through the chair. That's a great consideration, Deputy Mayor. The only caveat to that was the offering was only for our utility bills for water, wastewater. This is for taxes, and we're not sure what the response is going to be. So we just want to make the best situation for our residents, since it's been almost a year. But we'll definitely take that into consideration for sure.
If I just to clarify,
yeah, I'm okay either way. If you want to delay it for a month, I'm good with that. If you want to delay it for a month, I'm okay with that. It was just a thought, the other thing. But if you want to go with the month delay, I'm good with that too.
Okay. Do we want Tiffany at all to comment on this, or we're good to go then? Yeah. I was just thinking if she wanted to add anything. She's heard the conversation. Yeah. Tiffany, did you want to add any comments or clarifications, or any? Are we making any assumptions or anything that you want to maybe highlight, or?
Yeah, through you, Mayor DeVete, I think Michael, the CAO, did clarify, and he is correct. So in 2020, we did remove the interest and penalties on the water, wastewater, stormwater bills for a 3-month period, which means that the due date stayed, but they didn't have to pay interest and penalties. So a lot of people continued to pay, but if they couldn't, they did not. And then they paid at a later date. We did not make any changes for property taxes at that time, mainly because the property tax bills for interns were already out. We thought it could also cause confusion. We did monitor what calls we were getting with respect to financial hardships. And the measure we're taking now, what is being recommended, is less on the financial hardship, but more on the following the provincial guidelines to stay home. So we really want to encourage our residents and people in the community to stay home, to listen to the province within the lockdown. And that's where we're looking at the February date and the option of moving the February due date to March, as well as our water, wastewater and stormwater bills issued in February for the January billing, moving that deadline to March 31st as well. This will stop people from trying to come into the office to pay. We find that for the first installment, which would be that February, or in August when we issue the final tax bills, we have a good number of our residents that want to come into the office, provide those post-dated checks, to see someone at the front counter actually take them and file them away. So we want to make sure that those people are staying home, staying safe. So if we move that deadline to March 31st, it is in the hopes that we are not in a full lockdown situation at that time. And then if we are, then we do still rely on those online options. We still have the Dropbox. And of course, we can still, when residents call in with a financial distress, we do still walk through any of the options that we do have. We just don't have those payment plans in place any longer. And we haven't had any requests for it at this time, outside of the normal payment plans we put in place for property taxes related to the tax registration process. So we do have those, and those are agreements set out with myself and those residents specifically. So that would be what we're looking for here. And moving it to, and Mayor DeVete is correct, it is, you're looking more at the opportunity cost. We are going to still be charging interest and penalties on our property taxes for people who have not paid. So if you have an outstanding bill that's been outstanding for 2020 in January and February, you will still get interest and penalties on that. We just won't have a new bill added in February. It'll be added in March.
Okay. Anyone have any additional comment or concern? Or I see nodding. I think we're good then. So do I make a formal direction then? Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just ask for a show of hands. Is everyone in agreement that this is a good idea and that staff should defer the tax billing for 30 days? Everybody's good? And no one is opposed. Okay, so staff, you can take action and implement the process as needed. Okay, thank you very much. And before you sign off, Michael, I just want to say thank you for your presentation. You know, the early days of COVID-19 and ongoing and throughout now the renewed lockdown, I'd echo the comments that all of our staff has worked really well to develop good solutions and keep in mind the residents' needs, staff health, and how to keep everyone safe. We have a small staff. We can't afford to have people off and ill. So our service delivery, we've maintained services for all of our residents and being able to clarify information and keep everyone on track. So so much change to have dealt with, but I just want you to know that we appreciate it. I think councillors are not hearing too many complaints from anyone about how things are going here. So thank you to you and all of the staff members that are making it happen. So now moving on, we have the adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. The motion before us is that the minutes of Middlesex Centre Council meeting held on the 6th of January 2021 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover, please? And a seconder. Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Arts. Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes then are adopted as printed. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Before I ask for the motion, is there anything at all that someone has to ask a question on, or if they would, is there anything they'd like pulled? Okay, so the motion before us is that consent items 7.1 through 7.3 that are found in the consent agenda for January 20th, 2021 be adopted as recommended. I need a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Brennan, a seconder. Councillor Heffernan, I see your hand. Are there any opposed? And that is, they're adopted as recommended. Now, I see the next item up is staff reports, the corporate strategic plan. We'll ask that our CEO, Michael DeLolo, please present an overview of the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, I'm very happy to report, following almost a year now, that we do have before us the conclusion of our strategic plan. And it's a very exciting time for the municipality. It took a lot of work to bring it to this point, but with the pandemic, we put it on hold for the initial part of the beginning of last year. And then we decided to then come back together, and through a lot of stakeholder engagement and a lot of outreach, a lot of survey work that went into it. Before you was the final design and the final outtake of the strategic plan. And I'm happy to report that it came along very nicely. It is developed through identifying 5 main priorities. The priorities are done through themes. And so we, in the report, identifies the 5 themes being engaged community, balanced growth, vibrant local economy, sustainable infrastructure and services, and responsive municipal government. And from that, we have objectives that the senior team has now project managed to provide a chart in which we're going to adopt and put through our work plans so that we can start putting all of these exciting objectives in place for the next 5 to 6 years. So we're very excited about the new strat plan. And the other part to it is just looking at how we had an opportunity to update all of our mission and our values and our vision and the culture of the organization, which was done through staff input. So a lot of input from a variety of stakeholders, from council to associations to community groups to our municipal staff. It's a great document that really shows the strength and the unity of bringing everybody together. And so now the fun work begins, and the strategic plan will start to be a working document as we move forward over the next 5 or 6 years to work on some of these great interesting initiatives. And there'll be frequent reporting from myself to make sure that this isn't a document that we just put on hold. It's something we want to keep as a living document, and we want to be very mindful of how we do our work and how we serve our citizens and council. So it's now ready for adoption. I thank council for all your input and all your time and dedication. And a special thanks to Heather, our communications specialist and our guru, for working on putting the document looking as it does right now, and to the consultants who are also acknowledged in the report. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that update on the report. Are there questions from council or comments? I don't see any there. I just want to add that I'm really excited for this. This is something that we were wanting to get going on, and it was delayed, and I was really hoping it wouldn't go off track. It was a really good experience. We had excellent input from residents and lots of engagement. So I think exciting times for us to make it so now. So thank you to staff for that. I know the next item here is 8.2, but I just realized that the wording of the consent agenda items was 7.1 through 3. And in fact, there were 4 items. So I just want to read the 4th item that we didn't officially accept. And that is that boundary agreement that exists between Strathroy-Caradoc and our municipality on the maintenance of Amiens Road part. So I'm just going to ask for a mover and a seconder, and then we can move on to the next staff report. Thank you, Councillor Scott moves it, and Councillor Shipley seconds. And that. Oh yes, all in favor of that? Any opposed? There, okay. All right, so thank you for your indulgence on that. I'll move on to the next item, and I see our fire chief is ready to go. This would be the fire 2020 year-end report. Chief Toth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to council, I'm going to run through my report. It is quite lengthy. I'm going to hit on a lot of the hot topics. Just to define the report a little more, I'll be covering quickly my 2 areas of responsibility under my portfolio, which are fire services and emergency management. So under fire services, I'm going to briefly touch on operations and then get into fire prevention, which includes investigation, public education, and inspections for our 3 municipalities. And then just kind of jump into administration, which is inclusive of revenues and costs, and training, succession planning, and then brief projects. So we'll kind of jump into that really quick. All right, so department incidents. So even regardless of COVID or not, we did unfortunately exceed our 2019 numbers, and we were at 338 for our calls this year. There are a couple charts that are up on the screen now that show our calls that we do respond to and the numbers broken out into that 338. One of the other items in one of the pie charts as to geographical area. So I do get a lot of questions on geographical area. So the geographical area includes only the calls that are in that specific response zone. So for example, Delaware geographical area would just be in just include the calls that Delaware responds to, and not the second station response and assistance to other stations. So that is the definition and why we have that geographical to show those specific response types. Another question that we do get from time to time is, what is a second station response and that internal second station support? So when we do have calls that are of certain nature, such as fires, motor vehicle collisions that require extrication, we do have a second station respond to assist. So that is the definition of second station response. So in 2020, we did have a number of second station responses. So just to briefly go over those, we had Arva had 15 incidents, same as 2019. Bryanston was up 4, Coldstream assisted to 16, Delaware up 1 from basically nothing from 2020. Thanks, James. You can keep zipping down there. And then Ilderton was neutral from 2019 with 3. So that was a total of 39 second station responses. Perfect. Thanks, James. All right. So response times. So response times are defined as the time which it takes from receipt of the call to firefighters turning out and getting on scene. So our firefighters are very, very quick and very efficient, and 9 minutes and 10 seconds from call receipt to response to dressing to being on scene is quite remarkable for a paid on call professional department. Myself coming from career departments, my whole career, this is one piece to our fire department that constantly amazes me at the speed that our firefighters respond. All right, so moving down just quickly, we also look at the number of firefighters per incident. So this is on average over our calls for the year, and they include everything from medicals, motor vehicle collisions, open burn complaints, these type of things. So in 2020, we had 13 firefighters per incident, which is, again, very, very impressive over the industry. Responses by time of day. So this is a unique and a different metric that we added into our report this year, and something that we look at, and it assists us in ensuring we're maintaining our operational readiness day and night, and also meeting our mutual and automatic aid fulfillment, and that our service levels are being maintained to our community. So as you can see in this chart that James has up right now, our evening and night calls and daytime calls are fairly close. So this is a big change from 2019, when the majority of our calls were daytime calls. So it is an interesting environment that changes from year to year. All right, so quickly, fire loss statistics. This is another interesting one that keeps popping up in questions I receive from the public. Why are our costs so high? So fire loss is based on everything from contents to replacement value of the structures. And this varies, as you could see, from 2018 to 2019, the increase and then the decrease in numbers. And then this year, 2020, we had an increase to 2.8 million. What that is actually including is these large loss structures. So this year in particular, we did have quite a few house fires. So with houses being the replacement values being that they are, it is that dollar amount does increase very, very quickly. So that is our fire loss statistics for 2020. And then of course we have a chart there that shows our year over year. Now, kind of coupled with that, in the education side of it, we have our prevention program. Now that includes investigations and public education. We do very closely follow the fire marshal's directive of the 3 lines of defense, which are covered under this topic: the fire life safety, the fire inspections and standards enforcement, and the emergency response. So there has been, in the last 10 years, there's been a large paradigm shift in how we as a fire service look at and fire chiefs look at how to decrease and educate the public. So instead of responding to fires and that being our primary goal, now we're educating the public, and we're ensuring that those safety measures are in place in the way of inspections and enforcement. 2020 was definitely a difficult year for public education in particular. However, we did work with our other departments in the municipality and engaged our social media audience a little more. And this was integral to our strategy, ensuring that we got our messages out, as we couldn't get out in the communities and engage with people in that way. So the online presence was definitely an important part of 2020 public education. The report also covers the programs that we do provide, inclusive of, but not limited to ensure that we are teaching people that fire safety is our number one line of defense. Fire safety inspection. So if all of you can recall the change we had in our service in 2019, when we went away from the county providing these services to our own in-house. We did in 2019, we coupled with and worked with North Middlesex to provide inspection and investigative services to them. And in early 2020, we were able to provide services to Thames Centre as well. So now we are providing services to 3 municipalities, so 2 including us. That program has been going really, really well. Our neighboring municipalities, our partner municipalities, are very happy with the service. The one downfall, again, going back to COVID, we haven't been able to continue with our program and our risk assessments and our risk-based inspection program as we would have liked, as we had planned for. So this year, we were able to get to 174 inspections in a number of occupancies, from assemblies to institutional being our priorities, and our vulnerable populations and vulnerable occupancies, our residential by complaint and request, and then our commercial. Fire investigations, again, this year, surprisingly enough, was very, very high over our last number of years. And it wasn't primarily due to the fact that we have 2 more municipalities that we're providing investigative services to. So this year we conducted 13 fire investigations. So that's quite an increase over the number of years that we've been monitoring this, including with the county. Revenue services and costs. So this year, due to our increase in our high numbers in motor vehicle collisions, we were able to reclaim $89,000 worth of revenue during these collisions. Asset liquidation. We like to liquidate our assets from time to time, and we do use our GovDeals platform. And this year was a little slower than most, so we were able to generate $3,600 back in our revenue. Firemark is a company and an option that we use to reclaim costs and expenses during fires. So the important thing to know about Firemark is that they do deal primarily with insurance companies, and it is difficult the files are large, and it is hard sometimes to get funds out of in this regard. So for 2020, Firemark was unable to recuperate any funds on our behalf. However, this revenue usually comes in the year after, and it's so it basically trickles in from this source. Our incident reporting requests, our report requests, and our firework permits were definitely down this year for obvious reasons as well. So we had 279 and 113 was collected for fireworks and bylaw specific permits. Getting into specific response costs. So one of the items I'd like to draw your attention to, that's perfect, James, right there. Over on medical. So we have started, in 2017, we started calculating on average how much each response type would cost based on our response models. One of the items in our fire master plan identified that we should look into reducing, based on risk, reducing our response to certain events. So we did try a number of reduced responses in the way of carbon monoxide alarms and medical alarms. So our medical alarms were generally the same as our open burns in past years. So now modifying our response model with usage of vehicles and number of firefighters responding, we've decreased that almost in half while not risking or decreasing our service levels. So it's interesting how we always look at our different models and how to modify them. Training and recruiting. I'm not going to get into this too much. The big piece of our training and recruiting, we did increase our offerings through our local, our multi-municipal training program that we built in 2017, and it provides services to our neighboring municipalities at a increased, like a decreased cost. And provides the industry respected training and the industry accepted training that is the norm now. A big piece of our training for 2020 was succession planning and officer training, and to ensure that we do have replacement as firefighters retire and we hire new firefighters. Training numbers. So there's a chart a little ways down that talks about our training. There it is. Thanks, James. Obviously, our training is down for this year significantly due to our current environment. However, we were able to get in almost 2,000 hours, and we focused on our core curriculum as opposed to, looking at all different avenues of training and having a little fun in there too from time to time. So we were able to maintain our core curriculum. Specialty rescue services, we did increase our low angle team to a high angle team. And this is imperative with our new rescue services that we're going to be working towards in 2021, in that we've had a number of farm specific incidents in the way of grain rescue and a few other type of rescues that we had to perform in 2020. So high angle is a big piece of this, being able to extricate people from these type of structures. So we did increase that. Our team in Delaware responds to high angle, and Coldstream still manages water and ice and swift water rescue. All right, so recruiting. Recruiting this year, 2020, we did a recruiting, and we had, again, an overwhelming response to our recruiting. And that number was 94 applications, which is now up from 2019. Out of those 94, 39 were considered and interviewed for our 15 available positions. So we were able to fill those positions Unfortunately, we did lose a number of firefighters due to other commitments, and we were able to place 4 individuals on our reserve list. So that gives us immediate future consideration to bring them up if we need to. Our current complement sits at 112 firefighters. A big piece of 2020 was, like I mentioned, was our succession planning and our officer development. Training our firefighters, up and coming firefighters that are interested to become officers, and train them at a industry respected and industry accepted level. And I know you've all heard me say this and tout this many times, but Middlesex Center is one of the very few fire services and municipalities that are able to say that we are almost 100% certified to industry standards, which is definitely important. Our driver certification program. In 2018, we engaged an agreement with Malahide to provide driver certifications. So with our ministry approved instructors, we are able to provide not only those industry standard training programs to our new firefighters and existing firefighters, but also the Class D and the Air Brake Z endorsement, and that's all in-house at a decreased cost. Finally, projects. We've done a lot of projects in 2020. Some of them I'll quickly highlight. We've added 2 training disciplines to our multi-municipal training curriculum. We've deployed our off-road terrain vehicle. We've designed, tendered, and awarded contracts for our Delaware tanker and our Ilderton engine. We've moved up the timeline on purchase of our gas monitoring, our gas monitors and our gas monitoring system. Again, another very successful recruiting. And we added a number of positions and internal promotions within MCFS. We continue to provide medical training and tiered medical to our community and our residents. And we did in 2019 move back from internal medical training to medical training by third party and under director oversight, medical oversight. During the pandemic, we took the opportunity to redesign and modernize our municipal emergency management program, and in particular, the plan itself and our supporting bylaws. So we streamlined those. Another big project for 2020 was the ensuring interoperability between our stations in the way of couplings and the way we work together in processes and that type of stuff. So better service to our residents, to our community. And then, of course, our modernizing of our standard operating guidelines that are going to continue into 2021. And what James is scrolling through there is just our project matrix that we use to track our projects. Emergency management side of it. So this has been an interesting year for emergency management, as everyone knows. We've really tested our emergency management and our team and our control group and our emergency operations center. So we did modernize that as well. We modernized our emergency operations centers following the incident management system. And of course that our compliance for 2020 and our training was deferred by the province due to the fact that our training was real. So our compliance, we met and we were successful in our compliance once again this year. Emergency management was definitely a big piece of 2020 and continues into 2021. So to just on a final note, one thing I'd like to throw out and throw at council and our community is how very proud I am of our firefighters, of my firefighters, and junior and senior firefighters, and their composure and their professionalism and their dedication to duty over this pandemic. Not once did I hear that they didn't want to respond. They were first out the door as always. The service levels were maintained and in some regards increased. And like I said, their dedication to duty is second to none. So I'd like to throw that out there as well. At this point, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that very comprehensive report, Chief. I'll ask council if there are questions, comments, observations. Councillor Shipley.
Through the Mayor, Colin, excellent report, Colin. It's very informative. Just one question I've got is the second station response to Bryanston. Do you have a timeline when that may be able to not respond with the second station, or any ideas on that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. That would fall under what I was discussing about the second station and the internal assistance. Bryanston, we have done a phased approach with Bryanston, and we've decreased it over a specific time period. And we have built Bryanston up to the point where they are 95% ready to go on their own. It is important to note how difficult it is to recruit out in the Bryanston area. And their numbers are at 19, and we continue to get requests for recruiting out in Bryanston. So a timeline on that, it's difficult to provide a timeline, but I am confident to say that in 2020, the second station to Bryanston, outside the realm of normal fires, and the second station that would be required will cease.
No, that's great, Colin. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one quick one for you, Chief. I'm wondering, can you just give a little, I guess, color to the chart and help explain, you talk about remuneration breakdown. And how does that relate to the activity or the calls that people are called out to, and sort of like if you look at busy station versus where they stand on remuneration, or is there a correlation between that? Is what accounts for all the differences other than just pure bodies? Maybe I'm not even sure that that's true.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're referring to, Mayor. Yeah, we use a points pay system as opposed to an hourly rate. It just works a lot. It's a lot more conducive to our environment. And the points pay system not only includes response to calls, but it also includes false alarms. It could include that, responses to open burns. And a big piece of that is training as well. So we remunerate our firefighters for everything they do, and rightfully so. And training is a big piece of the response, and response is not the only thing we do. Does that cover what you're?
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, then we have a motion before us, and it is that report FS 01-2020 entitled Middlesex Centre Fire Services 2020 year-end report be received. Do I have a mover? Councillor Shipley, and a seconder, please. Councillor Heffernan. Are any opposed? Seeing none, that is received then. And I was distracted. I neglected to ask for a motion to receive the strategic report. That motion before us was that report CAO number 1, 2021 regarding the corporate strategic plan be received, and that council approve the new corporate strategic plan appended to report CAO 1, 2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Arts, seconded by Councillor Scott. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. The last item on our staff reports is a request for council resolution. I'll ask that Dan Fitzgerald, our planner, speak to this. Hi, Dan.
Through the mayor. Hi, and hello to all the members of council tonight. So thanks for inviting me to speak to this particular item. So generally, the purpose of this particular report is to seek direction from council by way of a resolution, which would focus on studying the resident surplus to farm operation policies with specific regard to prerequisites for the occurrence of farm consolidation in Middlesex Centre's official plan, and also to consider whether or not it may be necessary to modify any of those provisions that are within the existing municipal official plan. So as council may be aware, the policies that direct resident surplus to a farm operation severances are primarily informed through the PPS, which is policy 2341 subsection C, and then more more applicable in this case at the local level in section 10.3.2.1 in Middlesex Center's official plan. These subject of prerequisites for the occurrence of a farm consolidation, generally speaking, would be included in the broad overall scope of the Middlesex Center's current ongoing official plan review. However, staff as well as council can further direct that a specific review of these policies does occur. Currently, there is a lack, I would say, a lack of guidance to clearly define what these prerequisites are of farm consolidation, as well as what consolidation means for municipal council review. So given the above, staff are recommending that council do direct staff to review and study the resident surplus to a farm operation policies as they apply to the municipality, and to consider whether or not it may be necessary or prudent to modify those provisions. Thank you, quick and easy, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Dan? I don't see any. That is the motion before us then, as just read. I guess I should repeat it just to make sure everyone knows. The motion before us is that council direct staff to review and study the prerequisites for the occurrence of farm consolidation in the Middlesex Centre official plan as they apply to land use in the municipality, and to consider whether or not it may be necessary or prudent to modify those provisions. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Arts and Councillor Scott. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you, Dan, and we'll look forward to seeing the results of that work. Do we have to wait till 7?
3 minutes.
Yeah.
So we could probably do with a motion to move in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're really close to our starting time, so we'll just make the motion. We won't start with presentations till 7, so everyone who's interested can attend. The motion to move into Committee of Adjustment is that council adjourn the regular meeting in order to city as the Committee of Adjustment under Section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, to consider a number of minor variance applications. I'll take a mover and a seconder, please. I have Councillor Scott moving, and a seconder is Councillor Heffernan. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, then we are now sitting as a Committee of Adjustment. I can start with the preambles, right? Yeah, okay. So in opening the meeting, the members of the public that are participating virtually in tonight's public meetings have previously notified to the municipal clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notifications on any of the minor variance applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that the comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on any of the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on the file. Those who have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and to provide comments on applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and to uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. I'll review the order of proceedings now. It's the same for every application, and it is as follows. First of all, I'll ask that the planner explain the purpose of the application and hearing, and to present the staff report. Then the municipal clerk will provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. Third, the applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to the application. Then the public will be asked for their comments and questions. It's okay. As for their comments and questions, please ensure that you state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. The committee may then ask questions of the applicant or staff. And then finally, I'll ask that we consider the motions regarding the applications that we heard. So I have 701 now. I think we can now move to application for minor variance, file number A19 for 2020. And our planner on this file is Dan Fitzgerald. If you would like to give an overview of the report, please.
Through the chair, yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor and all committee members. So the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance is to seek relief from Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to the maximum permissible size as well as height of an accessory building in the agricultural A1 zone. The owner is requesting a revised maximum size of 135.6 square meters for all accessory buildings on the property, whereas Middlesex Center's bylaw currently permits a maximum size of 110 meters squared or 3% lot coverage. So in this case, the owner is requesting an increase to the maximum permissible height as well of to a building of 6.55 meters, whereas the bylaw currently permits a maximum height of 6.5 meters. And as mentioned, the effect of this proposal is to facilitate the construction of said accessory building. So as committee may recall, I'm not going to go through the whole report just as this has been heard before at the previous meeting. Application 19-2020 was brought forward at December 16th, 2020 meeting. Committee did refer that back to staff to work with the applicant to consider a reduction in the size of the proposed accessory building as well as height. The owner has responded by reducing the proposed size from 178 square meters to the proposed 135.6 square meters, which does represent 3% lot coverage for the specific parcel. Additionally, the owner has requested a height of, or originally requested a height, sorry, of 7.8 meters, which they have now revised to 6.55 meters. So in this particular case, marginal increase of 0.05 meters in height. Based on the analysis provided in the planning report, staff is of the opinion that the applicant's proposal does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance stipulated in the Planning Act, as it's minor, is appropriate and desirable, meets and also meets the general intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. So with that said, staff are also of the opinion that there's no anticipated negative impacts to any of the adjacent properties within the area. Given the above, staff do recommend that minor variance application A19/2020 be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the planner's report. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Caleb Wood is on the line. Caleb? Did you lose him?
Looks like we may have just lost them for a moment, so we'll see if we can bring them back here.
Okay. Well, I'll just note that there are no public members who have requested to participate, and that also the clerk has not received any additional comments. I see his name has popped up, so we've got him back. Just one moment, we'll get him. Hello, Caleb.
Hi there.
Hi, would you like to add anything to the presentation or any comments that you'd personally like to make?
No, everything seemed really good. No, I appreciate the approval, and it's always been a dream just to have a shop, so I appreciate it.
All righty then. In that case, are there any questions from the committee? Oh yes, Councillor Heffernan, I see you.
Yes, through Madam Mayor to Dan. When we put these conditions on, such as not to use as a business, does that go on title, like to be carried forward for any future, like if the property was to be sold at some point, or how does that work?
Through the chair of the councillor. So specifically, the condition is more of just a stopgap to provide a further notification to the applicant in this case, as well as potential any other future property owner, that they are not permitted to use it as for business purposes. That is clearly already stated in the municipality's bylaw and would be subject to bylaw enforcement. But just for future reference as well, if someone was purchasing the property and they wanted to pull the original minor variance application as well as approval documents, it would physically say on that on that decision that a business is not permitted to be operated out of this space. It's more just further notification.
Okay, I think there are no other questions, in which case the motion before us is that minor variance application A19-2020 filed by Caleb Wood and Stacy Brown for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaws maximum size and height for an accessory building where the applicant is requesting a maximum size of 1,460 feet squared, whereas Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 1,184 square feet or 3% lot coverage for lots less than 1.25 acre, but greater than a half acre for all accessory buildings, and to permit a maximum height of 21.5 feet, whereas the maximum permitted height for an accessory building is 21.3 feet. For the lot legally described as part lot 18, in the municipality of Middlesex Center in the county of Middlesex and municipally known as 6219 Cook Road, be granted subject to the following conditions. These are all listed in the documents, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Scott moving, and a seconder is Deputy Mayor Brennan. Are any members opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Wood, for your patience, and enjoy your new building. All right. Next up, we have an application for minor variance, file number A25-2020. And Dan, would you please present the report, the planning report?
Through the chair to all the members of the committee. So the purpose and effect of the application for this particular minor variance is as it relates to the maximum permissible gross floor area, height, as well as location of an accessory building in the community residential density CR1 zone. So in this particular case, the applicant is requesting that a maximum size for all accessory buildings on the land of 154.3 square meters. Whereas the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 50 square meters of gross floor area or 3% lot coverage. The applicant, as previously noted, is also requesting a maximum permissible height of 8.8 meters for one of the accessory buildings, in this case a detached garage, and 6.2 meters for the other, where it's just shown as a pool shed. Where the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw permits a maximum height of 5.5 meters. Additionally, the applicant is also requesting permission to construct one of the accessory buildings in the front yard, again, in this case being the detached garage, whereas section 4.1A subsection I does not permit accessory buildings to be erected closer to the front lot line than the main building or structure on the lot. So the effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction, again, of two accessory buildings, one of which, as mentioned, is a detached garage and the other pool house. So before I go any further, I'm just going to put up a location map so everyone can kind of see where we're talking about. Can everyone see that?
There we are.
So in this particular case, the subject property is located on the north side of Harris Road, north of the intersection at Harris Road and Martin Road in Delaware, and is municipally addressed 147 Harris Road. It does gain access by way of a 26.6 meter frontage along Harris Road and flares out towards the back, extending behind 6 existing residential properties, which do front on Harris Road as well. Generally, it's surrounded by residential developments, both in the form of large estate and smaller residential lots to the east, south, and west, and also by a protected woodland and natural feature, which is the Dingman Creek to the north. The property is approximately 10.23 acres in size, or 4.13 hectares in area, again with a frontage of approximately 26.6 meters along Harris Road, and a single detached residential dwelling is currently under construction on the site. They are designated a settlement area in the County of Middlesex official plan, residential, and located as well within Special Policy Area 3 in the Middlesex Center Official Plan. And they are zoned Community Residential First Density CR1 zone in Middlesex Center's zoning bylaw. So as previously noted, the applicant is seeking relief from Middlesex Center's bylaw as it relates to the maximum permissible size, height, as well as location of one of the accessory buildings on the property. And in order to fully understand the applicant's proposal, I thought it would be beneficial to kind of, and for the public as well as committee, break it down more into the 3 separate categories that they're asking for. So I'm just going to flip over to the actual plan, the proposed plan. So I've gone ahead and added a bit of information to the proposed plan, just to provide, again, council as well as the public and our community, the public, as well as anyone, the applicant, where our rationale comes from when we're reviewing a particular property of this nature. So what should I say here? I would note that staff did not receive any negative comments noting any concern from the proposal from any internal or external agencies. And at time of writing the report, we did receive 1 comment from the public, which was in opposition to the proposal. That was included in the planning report. And as James will note, we did also receive 3 additional comments from neighbors who have also expressed concern with the proposal. So these letters have been shared with the committee, and most comments do revolve around the proposed height and location, more so of the detached garage in this case, and not necessarily the pool shed, which is located kind of at the back of the property. And most of it relates to a question as to whether or not the proposed variances are minor in nature as opposed to anything else. So in the case of this particular lot, the frontage is the southmost portion of the lands, as you can kind of see down here. If you can kind of see my pointer here. So it's the 26.64 meters is the actual frontage of this particular property. The interior side yards are represented here, which is actually abuts a rear yard of the existing single-family homes along Harris Road. There's another interior side yard along the back here portion, which would be the east side of the lands. The rear yard is towards the back of the property or north, and then another interior side yard both to the west, and then again abutting the existing single-family homes along Harris Road on the other side. Frontage in the land use bylaw is defined as the shortest distance from the front onto a municipal right-of-way. So in this case, due to the unique characteristics of this lot fabric, you have a small frontage compared to the flared out nature of the lands extending towards the back of the property. The front yard is then defined as the closest point from the frontage to the house. So in this particular case, I've drawn it on as this dotted line from this front corner all the way to this front peak of the house. So all of this area in this particular drawing would be considered the front yard as per the existing zoning provisions. As shown on the diagram, this front lot line does extend back from the front lot line to the forwardmost portion of the house. I've then kind of drawn on another line that kind of comes across here from the front portion of the house across to that interior side yard, which then gives kind of council the idea as to why you're necessitating, or the applicant in this particular case is necessitating, a front yard variance. And it's not necessarily because the accessory building is located in the front yard. It technically is based on the actual lot and the position of the house. However, it's actually kind of pushed back into an interior side yard, and it's more of a formality in this particular instance. So the actual measurement in this case is 2.13 meters that it does extend into that particular space. And I would also note that the detached garage which is the accessory building, is technically located, as I noted, in the side yard, which does require a minimum interior side setback for a structure of this nature as 1.5 meters. The applicant is proposing an interior side yard setback in this particular case of 6.94 meters. So if I can zoom in on this plan here, I can show you right here the closest point of this proposed accessory building to the interior side yard lot line is 6.94 meters on the plan. It should also be noted to committee that the existing zoning for the interior side yard on this particular lot for a house would permit a distance also of 1.5 meters to this lot, to that interior lot line at a height of 12 meters along that side, which should be taken into consideration when reviewing the request for height. As previously noted, the applicant is proposing the accessory building to be 8.8 meters in height at the location of 6.9 meters from the property line. The applicant is also proposing an additional accessory building, which is located behind the existing house in the format of a pool shed. This particular building as well, as you can kind of see up here, is proposed to be a height of 6.2 meters, which is beyond the 5.5 meters currently permitted, and also generally does not seem to represent a concern of the neighbors, which is due primarily to its location behind the existing, the single-family home that's currently under construction. So generally, staff have reviewed the proposal against the Planning Act tests, and we do note the following, or I do note the following. So when we look at the variance and we say, is it appropriate and desirable for the use of land? So we would say generally, yes, the introduction of accessory buildings that are subordinate to the residential dwelling on lands is considered appropriate and desirable, given that there are many examples of accessory buildings within this existing neighborhood. So does it maintain the intent of the official plan? So again, we would say yes, the proposal does maintain the intent of the official plan, as your official plan does permit the establishment of accessory buildings, which are subordinate to residential classifications of lands. The owner does, in this case, intend to utilize the buildings for residential purposes to support the residential function of the property. And then we get into, does the variance maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw? So planning staff generally are of the opinion that the general intent of the zoning bylaw can be maintained in all three instances. And I'll start with the front yard. In that my opinion is the requirement for the bylaw to locate behind the forwardmost portion of the house is to ensure generally that the single detached dwelling does remain the dominant structure on the lands. So in this particular case, the portion of the accessory building that is located in the technical front yard, which is basically 2.3 meters beyond the front wall of the house, is well away from the road in this case and is sheltered behind two existing residential lots from the street. As such, when I review this, I would say I'm satisfied that the intent is met of the bylaw, that the accessory building clearly remains subordinate to the main house on the lands. And then I'll say, respecting the request and increase in size, again, the requirement from the bylaw is to limit the size to ensure the residential dwelling is maintained as the primary use and dominant structure on the lands. There is a unique situation that's kind of occurring here where the owner has, a very large, oversized residential lot that is experiencing a hardship by limitations of the bylaw to 50 square meters. At the proposed overall size of 154 square meters, it does represent a total lot coverage for accessory buildings of less than 0.4%. Also, given the size of the single detached house on this particular parcel, the proposed accessory structure will remain a subordinate structure on the lands. As such, I would say planning staff are satisfied that the proposal does, the proposed size does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. Lastly, I would note that staff have reviewed the proposed height of the accessory building on the lands. Generally, there hasn't been a lot of concern raised against the pool house that is located at the back at 6.2 meters. Like rightly so, I would say I don't have a concern with that given its location on the particular lot. Staff have also separately reviewed the request for the detached garage at the proposed height of 8.8 meters. Staff do note that the height is a reflection of the architectural character of the structure to match the roof pitch that is currently on the house that is under construction. The structure is proposed to be a single story where the intrusion beyond the maximum permissible height is limited to the roof trusses. When reviewing the proposal and existing zoning permissions, I do note that an interior side yard, in this particular case, a house could be built 1.5 meters off that interior side yard at a height of 12 meters. The applicant's proposal is at 8.8 meters and is set back almost approximately 7 meters from that particular property line, which does provide a buffer distance to lessen the impact of any potential sight lines and an overview from abutting rear yards. As such, I am of the opinion that the height would meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. And the final test really is whether or not this is considered minor in nature. So as noted in the planning report, minor is not necessarily based on the extent to which the zoning bylaw is varied. And so what I mean by that is it's not based on the percentage of an increase. It's based on whether the impact of the variance can be considered minor in nature. The location, the context of the proposal versus the single detached dwelling, and the existing characteristics of this neighborhood could be considered minor in nature. Additionally, staff have heard comments respecting the height and location of the attached garage. In relation to the proposed pool house and the proposed setbacks, staff are confident that the 6.9 meter setback on the detached garage would provide a substantial buffer between the proposed accessory building and the existing single detached lots along Harris Road. Additionally, planning staff have further had discussions with the applicant where they have agreed further to provide a coniferous hedge screening in between the accessory building and the rear yard, further reducing any potential impact on the particular properties in front. The proposed conditions, in addition to a condition requiring a tree hedge, will lessen any potential impact on neighboring properties. Therefore, staff have determined that the variance in this particular case could be considered minor, subject to the conditions in the recommendation. So as noted in the report, staff is of the opinion that the proposed minor variance would be considered minor in nature and can be considered appropriate development for the subject lands. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the proposal does satisfy the Planning Act tests and does recommend that minor variance application A25-2020 be approved, subject to the conditions outlined in the planning report. And I would note that there is one additional condition that is not included in the planning report, and that is specific to a continuous coniferous hedgerow at a minimum height of 6 feet be planted in between the detached garage and the abutting rear yards. And really the intent in that particular case is to provide that additional screening for those rear yards in that particular instance. So with that said, I'll conclude my report and certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Alrighty, next we have Paul Croker, who is the agent and has registered to speak on the application. I see that he's here. There you are. Hello, if you'd like to make your presentation, Mr. Croker. I think you're muted.
Hi.
Hi, there we go.
Thank you.
We can hear you.
For that.
Not at all.
Yeah, so to the chair, definitely Planner Fitzgerald has done a spectacular job of representing what the concerns are for this particular project. And I believe he has effectively conveyed the information. Indeed, the landowner does have this large parcel. It's an estate home. The use of the garage is for cars. It's he's got a family that has children that are either at driving age or approaching it. And as we all know, we have multiple cars for most families. So he's looking for that extra space to park the children's cars, basically, that will be taking up that space. But beyond that, I don't have really any additional comments. Of course, I'm open if there are any questions.
Very well, thank you. Next I'm not sure I know how to say this name.
Not with us. We're going to move to Mike and Nancy.
Oh, okay. Our next speakers are then Mike and Nancy, members of the public who have registered to speak to the application. There we are.
Very good. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Certainly can.
Oh, this is very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors, all, for the opportunity to address this panel and provide the input that you sought in the application. My wife Nancy and I are here, and we'd like to welcome Mr. Walker and his family to our neighborhood, and do look forward to sharing this part of the community as good neighbors. We do reside at 153 Harris Road, and our backyard is directly in front of this new residence and proposed accessory building. Our neighbors, Ken and Marlene Hunt at 149, they too share this back property line, and were most closely affected by this potential development. We trust that you've read our letter submitted on January 15th, and that really details our concerns and objections. So I'm not going to review those points there, but thank you again for the opportunity. We also understand that at least 4 property owners have submitted written concerns with objections to the 3 items seeking relief, and we would deem that a fair assessment of community feedback. The applicant is seeking the relief for 3 things: for size, height, and of course the location to the front lot line. We appreciate that it's a large, unique estate property, but we also understand that there's rules, identified rules, minimums, maximums, and set as parameters that are basically should be maintained. So we assume that the requirements and criteria have all been established for good reasons. So we're here today because 3 of those rules are being challenged. Regarding the variance request, we know that the planning group has already made the recommendation to approve these 3 items as asked for and ask for relief. And what we would ask of you is that consideration be given to the impact and infringement upon our future enjoyment and privacy of this land, if approved. We've seen the dimensions of this proposed detached building. It is large, and we feel that the loss of privacy is significant. And right now, we feel that there is rules that prevent that. The variance applications sought community input and feedback to alter 3 rules. And I believe you've got some input from 4 members of the community. While we take no issues with the first and second, the size and the height, we do take issue with the location. And we would suggest that should consideration be given to relocate and push back that accessory building closer to the house, we could support the relief on all 3 items. This site plan and the lots that we've all seen, they do clearly identify and highlight the applicant's desire and designs for the privacy and quiet enjoyment of their property. And what we're asking for is for you to consider the impact and loss of ours if approved as requested. I thank Dan for his presentation and his map in particular with the red highlighted lines. With regards to the building in the front of the property, I would question through the mayor, Dan, how did that line get defined? If I'm thinking frontage as being the property line on Harris Road, how did that line going through the detached garage get to be at such an angle where it's not parallel to the frontage of Harris Road? I don't understand that.
Is there? Oh, yeah. The question is noted. If you'd like to continue your presentation.
Oh yes, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead.
Regardless of the outcome of tonight's meeting, we were going to ask about consideration for vegetation or coniferous trees, etc. I did hear that the proposal includes a condition of 6 feet high a tree line along the whole property line. And while that is good news, and thank you for that kind of consideration, that will make a difference. I might suggest that that is inadequate in height, and I would recommend something closer in the ballpark to 15 or 20 feet in height would be a more appropriate and more useful screen or buffer. And I guess that's really all we have to convey tonight. So 2 questions, and we're grateful for the opportunity to participate in this feedback. So we leave it in your good hands and look forward to a solution.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Ernewin. Is Mr. Turek on the line? He's not. Very well. I'll note then that no additional public members have requested to participate, and that the comments received by the clerk in advance of the meeting have been distributed to the committee. So you should have all had a chance to see those. I'll entertain questions from the committee now. Councillor Scott.
One second there, I get unmuted. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a few comments myself for maybe sake of the committee, because I'm from Delaware and I live in the area. I do know all the 4 residents that wrote the letter. And although I also welcome new people to Delaware, new residents, I do see their concerns and share the concern of the building being fairly close to that property line. And I'm looking at it. I also probably am not opposed to the size of the buildings being extended, because it is a huge lot, and even the height, because it'll match the house quite nicely. But I can probably comment and say that I can see where their concern is with moving that building back if it's possible, because of the height of it and everything like that. You can look right down into those backyards pretty clearly. So anyway, my question, I guess, would maybe be directed to you, Dan. Has any consideration, or has there been any request to see if they could slide that building back along with the proposed sports court, and just make that a little bit more comfortable transition for the neighbors?
Through the chair to Councillor Scott. Yes, so I did have, it was kind of around the same time I had the conversation about the introduction of a coniferous head screen along that particular property line. I did also inquire about the potential possibility of moving the building back to keep it in compliance with that front yard setback requirement, which would no longer necessitate that portion of the variance. There was a desire by the owner, the homeowner in this particular case, to locate it where it currently is, just given the access to the actual garage through the driveway and the vehicular portion of the land. So maybe Paul could speak further to that, but I did certainly raise that as a question to them.
Would you like to respond to that, Mr. Croker?
Yes, to the chair, to Councillor Scott on that matter. We definitely did talk with the owner of the property. I'm a representative of the person making the application, and due to the alignment of the garage doors coming into the side of that structure, if we move it back, it makes it very difficult to keep the 2-car garage access from that side. The other interesting thing to be alert to is, as was mentioned by our planner, Mr. Fitzgerald, indeed the elevation is largely roof. The actual windows are all on the main level, the lower level, the first floor, as it were, where you drive in. So I completely understand the concern about privacy, but to be, as a rebuttal, so to speak, it's not like people will be up above looking down into someone else's property. The only windows are on the lower level, the single level of that structure, if that answers the question.
Thank you. Do you have any additional comments, Councillor?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thanks for that explanation. I can see where that maybe could be an issue. I think the whole impact with the shed being there, and I mean the house is fairly high too, which was permissible, so that's not really an issue. I think that whole concern of just the privacy in the backyard, as I know the folks there have a fairly large backyard with open swimming pools. So I feel for the complainants in this case on on that decision, and just wondered if there was any talk about possibly turning the garage doors the other way and moving that back to accommodate that, realizing that they could build it closer to the line. But anyway, I'll pass it off to the rest of the councillors to see what their thoughts are. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions? I don't see any. Deputy Mayor. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, not so much a question, Madam Mayor, as a comment. Being that this is a residential area, I have real concerns with the size of the building being pretty much 3 times what is allowed under the bylaws. So I do have concerns with the size and the height. And being it is a large lot, I really don't see why they can't move the garage back. They can make adjustments to the doors, and they've got lots of space there to accommodate moving the garage back and still being able to access the garage. So I have concerns with virtually all 3 of the concerns that people have, and I share those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Heffernan.
Yeah, I through the mayor. It's been noted that the size of the lot is like 10 acres. Therefore, it is an estate house. It's a large house. But so the size is relevant to the size of the lot is relevant or incorporates the size of the accessory buildings. And so this side yard should also be relevant, basically, because of the size of the lot. So I'm just thinking that if we're going to have such a large accessory building on a large lot, then the side yards should also be, rather than the normal side yard, which is not very wide, that would make the difference up. And I agree that maybe it could be moved back a little bit more and a larger side yard be put in place.
Thank you for your comments. Other questions? Oh, I've got one then that was asked for, shoot, I just noted it was about the frontage. Oh, yes, it was Mike who was speaking about frontage, I think. Yeah, and he paused for a moment about, yes, okay, Dan's smiling. You know the question then. I was wondering, could you give us an answer to that?
Yes, so through the chair to all the committee members as well as the member of public. So this kind of formulates one of like the main considerations on the lot is that frontage component. And bear with me, I'll try to do my best to explain it. If I don't do it, if people don't understand, just let me know and I'll try again. But in this particular case, frontage on a lot is always defined as the narrowest distance located on a physical roadway, so on a municipal roadway. So in this particular case, the actual frontage of this property is on Harris Road. Further to that, the front yard of a property is then judged by the shortest distance from that road frontage to the point on the structure from where that road is. So in this particular case, I kind of showed you that illustration with the lines on it, and I drew a line across to where the accessory building is. So that the first line that kind of went up to where the attached garage is on the house is that shortest distance from the road to the house. So that basically, that line constitutes the front yard of the particular property. So when you take that line and then draw straight across from that line into the interior side yard, in this particular case, which is the back of the property at 153 Harris Road, then you get the idea as to, okay, if you extend that line all the way across the property, that then becomes where the front yard of the house is, and where anything beyond that line towards the back is now considered behind the front wall of the house. So in this particular case, that second dashed line that kind of runs towards the rear property lines is representative of where that line would be considered front, as opposed to behind the front wall of the house. And in this particular case, as confirmed by the surveyor, the encroachment is 2.13 meters in front of where that line is that would constitute the front yard of a property. So I hope that provides a bit of clarification. It's honestly a very unique situation. You don't run into these ones a lot, and you only ever get it in a situation where it's a flag-shaped lot. So it is a bit confusing. It's a bit confusing for even myself, and I talked to Arnie about this one as well. And there is a bit of a lack of clarity in the bylaw when it comes to that interpretation, but it's been interpreted basically based on the existing regulations in the zoning bylaw.
So I'm just repeating it to make sure I'm really clear and understanding. The whole problem really here is that the point from the road, normally it would be parallel, kind of parallel to the house, but we have a lot, and a triangle portion of that lot actually is kind of like deemed the front, but it's actually someone else's property, and that line that goes not perpendicular to the back, but kind of on an angle heading down toward the lot line at the back gets narrower as you get closer to it because of the rotation of the house and the fact that there's a lot in front of it. Normally you'd have a street there as opposed to someone else's property.
Through the chair, yeah, that is correct. So we're not saying that the front of their yard is crossing over the neighbor's property. We're just saying that represents the shortest distance from the house to the road.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I didn't mean to imply that it was, but it kind of looks like that because there's a property there instead of a street. Yeah. Okay.
To the chair, yes, that's correct. And I want to make, I guess I wanted to make that clear that certainly the front yard of this particular house does not cross over those other properties. It's only on their lands, but it's just the way of how we have to interpret it based on existing provisions.
Okay. I guess the only other, it's a comment more than a question. I know the house is being built now. I look at a 10-acre lot and I'm a little bit curious as to how the house is positioned in a way that it is so close to a neighbor's property versus adjusting to take advantage more centrally of the lot, which would suggest a lack of, not a lack, a central placement, which would move away from other people's backyards. And I don't know I know I see the lines where the controlled area is for the Conservation Authority, and the building envelope is not quite a square shape either. It's not necessarily easy to fit amenities in the backyard and everything in a proper way that makes them easy to use. So it's a bit of an observation as opposed to a real comment. And there are other factors to take into account, including septic and so forth. So is there any other question? Oh, yes, Councillor Scott, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't actually have another question, but what I was going to ask was, do you think, is there a way that we can defer this back to, to the planning committee, maybe to take a look at other solutions for that front yard variance. As I mentioned, I'm not opposed to the size of the exterior buildings, the ones they want to do, or the height. It's just the closeness to that side yard, which is going to affect these neighbors. Is there a chance we could send that back so it is not, you know, necessarily turned right down, and maybe they could look at solutions of removing that back, and then also talking about the impervious hedge, which I know they've agreed to. Maybe we could look at a taller one.
That is,
and go that direction.
this is where I ask, what is your wish? And you would make a motion or amend the motion that is on the floor. So
Okay,
if you'd like
I'll
to.
move that.
Motion on the floor so we can put one on.
Okay, so the motion would be to defer this for further consultation between the planner and the property owner or their agent, and they would come back to the Committee of Assessment down the road.
Yes, please. I think they're very close there. I just think it needs a little fine tuning. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
And I have I see our planner's hand is raised. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, through the chair. Thanks, Mayor David. So if council does want to introduce a motion to send this back to staff, then I would request that council specifically identify the items that they wish to have further consultation on in this particular site.
Of course. Okay, would you like to itemize those, Councillor Scott? And that would be open to other councillors who have questions or concerns about the comments that they raised. So Councillor Scott, you're asking about the
two things. Yeah, the placement of the garage, the accessory building, and the second one would be the height of the proposed hedge.
Are other councillors in agreement, or do they want any additional questions, concerns addressed? I don't see any. Oh, there, I saw the hand move and then it stopped. Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Yeah, if they could take a look at the size too, being 3 times more than what is allowed, I would definitely like them to take a look at the size, being that it is in a residential zone. Thank you.
Councillor Scott, are you in agreement with that? Since you're making the motion, could you please speak to that?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate where Deputy Mayor Brennan's coming from, but I've learned something about the size and percentages of increases just recently, that the sizes are really based on what impact the size of that building has for the area. And with a 10-acre parcel, and in this area, there is definitely some oversized sheds in the area really close around. So I would not want to include that if I could, for that reason. Thank you.
Okay. So now, yeah, got it. Yeah, so the amendment to the motion has not been, is the amendment to the motion proposed by Deputy Mayor Brennan is not the motion that will be before us, because the mover has stipulated 2 conditions and declined to accept the 3rd one. So we'll have to vote on the amended version as it stands now. And then should we prefer to make a further, if it fails, then another motion can be made. If that motion passes the way it is, then that will be the motion that the planner and the applicant will be dealing with. Is that clear to everybody then? Okay, so I'll call a vote on the motion as presented by Councillor Scott, which addresses both the should I say orientation of the building and the foliage, the vegetative barrier, those 2 pieces. Do you want to read it as you have it?
Actually, if I could comment.
Yeah, go ahead and take it. Yeah.
where we have a procedural piece before us, and I would just like to provide some clarity for the committee at this time. We do want to allow an opportunity for the deputy mayor to make or propose the item that they have proposed for inclusion. Through the chair, I'm going to provide some procedural guidance to the committee at this time in order to hopefully help clarify where we are at with this motion. If the deputy mayor would like to propose an amendment to the main motion, which has been placed on the floor, a seconder will be required for that amendment. We would then vote separately on the amendment proposed by Deputy Mayor Brennan. And if it is either approved, it will form part of the main motion. If it is not successful, it will not form part of the main motion, and we will proceed to vote on the main motion as originally proposed by Councillor Scott. Is that clear for everyone? So at this time, should Deputy Mayor Brennan wish to proceed with his amendment, a seconder is required to amend this motion.
So I'll ask Deputy Mayor Brennan's motion was with respect to the size of the structure itself. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Shipley. So now we're voting on that piece. All of those in favor of taking into account the size of the building itself. Well, I'll ask for a show of hands. I will not ask for opposed. So if you agree with that, please show hands. There is one and opposed. Oh, wait a minute. I think there's confusion because the deputy mayor is voting against his motion.
He was just delayed on Zoom.
Oh, you were delayed on Zoom.
The motion fails.
Yeah, okay. Then we have 3-2. The original motion is still before us, the unamended version. Two aspects, the vegetative barrier and the positioning. That motion is before us now. All of those in favor of that motion? 1, 2, 3, and myself, that's 4. And opposed would be 2 then. Okay. All right. So this will be referred back to staff for a conversation with the applicant. Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment or a question?
Nope, that's fine. Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Arts.
I have, maybe I should have said it sooner, but there's a point transplanting trees where you go to a certain height and they kind of die because they're too big to transplant. So if there's that discussion, I would actually talk to some experts that know about feasibility of moving trees to a certain height. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and I appreciate your patience to make sure we've got the proper procedural, that we're following proper procedures. So we voted on that, and now we should move to item 9.3. Here we are, which is also an application for a minor variance, file number 826-2020. And Mr. Fitzgerald is going to give us this report as well. Go ahead, Dan.
So through the chair, thank you, members. The purpose and effect of this particular application for minor variance is to seek relief from Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to the maximum total lot coverage for a single detached dwelling, as well as the associated accessory buildings in the urban residential first density UR1 zone. The applicant is requesting a maximum lot coverage for a single story dwelling and all associated accessory buildings collectively to be 40%, whereas the Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage for a main building of 35%, and all buildings, including accessory buildings, to be 38%. So in this case, an additional 3%. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction again of a single detached dwelling and any associated future accessory buildings. So before proceeding any further, I'm going to throw up the map so everyone can see what we're referring to here. So the subject property is located on the south side of Edgewater Boulevard in the Southwind subdivision, and it is municipally known and addressed as 222 Edgewater Boulevard. It is surrounded on the north, east, and west side by single detached zoned lands, and also backs onto a natural feature to the south. The subject property is approximately 852 square meters in area, with a frontage, again, of approximately 28.4 meters on Edgewater Boulevard. The lands are currently vacant and are part of the Southwinds subdivision. The subject property is, they are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in the Middlesex Center official plan, and again, zoned urban residential first density in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as noted, the applicant is seeking relief from Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw, as it does relate to the maximum permissible lot coverage from 35% for the main dwelling and 3% for any associated accessory structures to 40% for all structures. So the effect of the change in this particular case would be an increase of 2% lot coverage. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and agencies presented no objections. I would note that the UTRCA, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, did submit comments to the applicant, more for knowledge of everyone involved, that a Section 28 permit would be required for any developments of future associated accessory buildings located in the back of the property. Staff note that the intent of the applicant is to construct a residential home, which is consistent with the official plan residential designation of the lands. Also, staff have reviewed the proposed uses, which are consistent with surrounding uses in the neighborhood. As such, staff are of the opinion that the format of development is desirable for the neighborhood. The general intent and purpose of the comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to total lot coverage restrictions in residential areas is to ensure that sufficient amenity space is available on each property. Also, the limitations on the maximum size of an accessory building is also to ensure that the main dwelling remains the dominant use of lands. So planning staff in this case is satisfied that the requested relief would not have a significant detrimental impact on the amenity space available on the subject property, nor would the size of any associated future accessory building or as proposed detract from the house remaining the dominant structure on the lands. Staff also feel that it would be appropriate, given that the applicant is requesting to build a one-story home, necessitating the increased footprint to achieve the desired size. As noted in the report, staff is of the opinion that the proposed increase in maximum lot coverage would be considered minor in nature, and can be considered appropriate development for the subject lands, as the location of the proposed residential dwelling is not anticipated to cause any adverse impacts on surrounding uses. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the proposal satisfies the Planning Act tests and recommends that minor variance application A26/2020 be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions of committee.
Thank you for that presentation. Next we have, I hope I say your name correctly, Dimitri Pilpay is the applicant and has registered to speak to this. Are you there, sir? I apologize
yes.
for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what? You got the name just fine. It is Dimitri Pilpay. That was very good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I feel better. Would you like to add any comments?
I logged on to answer any questions if you had any.
Okay.
No, Dan, thank you very much for presenting that very, very well. And I wait and will respect your opinion, your decision.
Very well then. Just for a matter of record, no public members have requested to participate and no additional comments have been received by the clerk. I'll now turn to the committee for questions. I see no questions. Just wait, make sure there's no Zoom delay here. Okay, well, in that case, the motion before us is that the minor variance application A26/2020 filed by Millstone Homes on behalf of Kevin Hodgins and Donna Lumani for the relief of the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to permit a maximum lot coverage of 40% for the main building and all accessory buildings, whereas the maximum lot coverage for the main building is 35% and an additional 3% permitted for accessory buildings. The legal description of the property follows, and the motion or the application is to be granted subject to the following condition, and that notwithstanding section 4.1B1 of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw, the maximum permissible size for an accessory building shall not exceed 4.55% lot coverage. And further, the reasons for granting the minor variance is compliance with the Middlesex Centre, Middlesex County comprehensive zoning bylaw, and that it's minor in nature, that it requests the request presents an appropriate development of the subject property. There, I'm sorry for bumbling through that. I will call them a vote then. Are there any members? Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Arts and Councillor Scott, and any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is it carries and the request is granted. Thank you for your patience tonight, and we can pass on the good news to the couple that's building the house. And we'll move on now to application 9.4, which is an application for minor variance, file number A28 2020. And again, Dan, would you please present the report?
So through the chair to the members of the committee, so the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance A28/2020 is to seek relief from the Middlesex Centre Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as it does relate to the minimum number of parking stalls that are required for a car wash. The applicant is requesting permission to reduce the maximum number of parking stalls from 51 to 23 spaces, inclusive of 2 barrier-free stalls, representing a parking ratio of 1 per 22.1 meters squared of gross floor area, whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum of, again, 51 parking stalls, or a requirement of 1 stall per 10 meters squared gross floor area for a car wash. The applicant is also proposing to count the 12 drive-through queuing spaces as part of the overall site parking requirements, whereas the permission does not currently exist in section 4.24, subsection N of Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw. This would result in 35 total parking stalls for the proposed car wash development, or a parking ratio of 1 stall per 14.6 meters squared of gross floor area. And the effect of this proposal is to facilitate the construction, again, of a car wash and dog wash facility, which includes 2 fully automated wash bays and 4 wand wash bays. So before, again, proceeding any further, I will throw up a map here for committee and the public's benefit here. So this particular subject property is located on the east side of Springfield Way, on the southeast corner of Springfield Way and Glendon Drive, and is municipally addressed as 9 Springfield Way. Existing lands and uses surrounding the property include the following: a vacant parcel of land zoned existing use to the north, a vacant parcel zoned highway commercial exception C25 to the east, and an existing commercial development to the south and west. The subject property is approximately 1.46 acres in area, with access provided through a mutual access easement off Springfield Way. The lands are designated settlement area in the county Middlesex official plan. They're also designated settlement commercial in the local official plan, and are also within special policy area number 2. The lands are also zoned a highway commercial exception, C2-8 zone in Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as previously noted, the applicant is seeking relief from Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to the minimum required number of parking stalls for the use car wash. The bylaw currently requires 1 stall per 10 meters squared. As noted in the purpose and effect, the applicant is proposing a total of 23 parking stalls with 12 additional queuing stalls dedicated solely for the automatic car wash bay. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and agencies and internal departments did not present any objections to the proposal. Staff have reviewed the proposed minor variance based on the use of the lands. In review, planning also researched alternate parking provisions for the same or similar use in other competing municipalities of similar size. Based on the number of stalls proposed by the applicant, planning staff have determined that the proposed parking provisions at the reduced rate do exceed those of other surrounding municipalities, even at the reduced rate that they are showing. In light of the above, I have also reviewed the proposal against the Floor Planning Act tests as shown in the planning report. Planning staff are satisfied that the requested minor variance can be considered minor in nature. That is appropriate and desirable, and it does meet the intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. We do not anticipate any potential negative impacts for parking on this particular parcel of land for the proposed use. And as such, planning staff are recommending that a minor variance be approved, subject to the conditions that the applicant provide a minimum of the 12 queuing stalls for the automatic car wash facility. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report, Dan. Sorry, he's not. Okay. I'll just move to the others. Yeah. The applicant who has registered to speak is not on the line. I'll just move forward then and indicate that no public members have requested to participate. There have been no comments that have been received by the clerk, and I'll move to questions from the committee. Are there any that you would like addressed? I don't see any. We can move forward then, can we not? Okay, so we have a motion before us. That the minor variance application A28-2020 filed by YCLIU Engineering for Chris Waters on behalf of 2685719 Ontario Incorporated for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaws minimum parking requirements for a car wash, where the applicant is requesting permission to reduce the maximum number of parking stalls to 23 spaces, that is inclusive of 2 barrier-free stalls, representing a parking ratio of 1 per 22.1 meters squared of gross floor area, whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 51 parking stalls or 1 stall per 10 meters squared gross floor area of a car wash for a lot legally described as Plan 33 in Block 3, RP 33R 17154 Part 1, Municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 9 Springfield Way, be granted subject to the following conditions, and that the development maintain a minimum of 12 queuing stalls. Sorry. In the, I've lost it. Here it is. Just 1 second. In 23, oh, sorry. Oh, this isn't the right one.
I'm going to go with motion as printed in your agenda package, the remainder of it.
Okay, yeah, it should be printed in your agenda package that the 12, it's the paragraph starting, and that the development maintain a minimum of 12 queuing stalls. Okay, if everyone has that in front of them, I'll ask for a mover and seconder. Councillor Shipley and Councillor Scott. Any opposed? And there are none opposed. That motion carries. Alrighty. And now we have an application 9.5 for minor variance, file number 829-2020. Dan, if you would give your report on that file, please.
Through the chair to all members of the committee. So the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance A-29/2020 is to seek relief from Middlesex Center's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, as it does relate to the maximum total lot coverage for a single detached dwelling, as well as the associated accessory buildings in the urban first density residential zone. The applicant is requesting a maximum lot coverage for a single-story dwelling and all associated accessory buildings collectively to be 40%. Whereas Middlesex Center's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage for a building to be 35% and all associated accessory buildings to be 38% total. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate, again, the construction of a single detached dwelling, as well as any future accessory buildings. So if everyone can see that, the subject property is located on the east side of Crestview Drive, north of the intersection at Crestview Drive and Westbrook Drive in the Southwood subdivision, and is municipally addressed 54 Crestview Drive. It's surrounded on all sides by single detached dwellings development. The subject property is approximately 665 square meters in area, with a frontage of approximately 17.5 meters along Crestview Drive. The lands are currently vacant and are part of, again, the Southwood subdivision. They are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and are zoned in urban residential first density zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. As noted, as previously noted, the applicant is seeking relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to the maximum permissible lot coverage for the main dwelling and associated accessory buildings from 38% total to 40% for all structures. The effect of the proposal is increased 2% to facilitate, again, the construction of a single-story home, as well as any associated accessory buildings. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and we had received no objections from internal departments or agencies with this application. Staff note that the intent of the applicant is to construct a residential home, which is consistent with the official plan residential designation of the lands. Also, staff have reviewed the proposed uses, which are consistent with surrounding uses in the neighborhood. As such, staff are of the opinion that the format of development is considered desirable and appropriate for the neighborhood. Further, the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw as it relates to total lot coverage restrictions in residential areas is to ensure sufficient amenity space is available on each property. Also, the limitations on the maximum size of an accessory building is to ensure the main dwelling does remain the dominant use of the lands. Planning staff is satisfied that the requested relief would not have a significant detrimental impact on the amenity space available on the subject property, nor would the size of an accessory building as proposed detract from the house remaining on the dominant structure of the lands. Staff also feel that it would be appropriate, given that the applicant is requesting to build a single-story home, necessitating the increased footprint to achieve the desired size. As noted in the report, staff is of the opinion that the proposed increase to the maximum lot coverage could be considered minor in nature and considered appropriate development of the subject lands, as the location of the proposed residential dwelling is not anticipated to cause any adverse impacts to the surrounding uses. Therefore, staff are of the opinion, again, that the proposal does satisfy the Planning Act tests and recommends that minor variance A29/2020 be approved, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the planning report. Thank you, and as always, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report. Then is Mr. Brennick here? There he is. I see the. So next we have Mr. John Brennick. He's the applicant and he's registered to speak to the application.
Yeah, so good evening, Madam Mayor and council members and Mr. Fitzgerald for that explanation. I'm here for any questions.
Okay. No public members have requested participation and no additional comments were received by the clerk. I'll turn to the committee for any questions or clarifications. Councillor Arts.
I need a clarification. For what I'm reading here, it says 40% for the main dwelling, and Dan's been saying main dwelling and accessory building. So which one's correct?
It's just the main building. We're just putting a covered rear porch on the back of the home.
So if we max out the 40%, sorry, through your mayor to Dan, does that mean that if he tries to apply for an accessory building, it's going to be no because you've already used the 40%?
Well, we're not maxing it out to the.
Through the chair to councillor, yes, that's correct. So in this particular case, the maximum overall potential for development on the lands is 40%. So we have included in that definition, or sorry, in the recommendation, specific language that does talk to accessory buildings to permit maximum lot coverage across the board, so that in the future there's no concern or misleadings that they could build beyond that 40%.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion before us that the minor variance application filed by Brannick Homes Inc. for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to permit a maximum lot coverage of 40%, whereas the maximum lot coverage for the main dwelling is 35%, and an additional 3% permitted for accessory buildings, for a property legally described as Lot 23 in the municipal plan number 33 M746, Municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 54 Crestview Drive, be granted, subject to the following condition: that the proposed single detached dwelling be limited to a single story in height, and that the site plan attached to this report substantively be implemented through the design of the building. And further, that the reasons for granting the minor variance application, that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan, and it complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw, that the request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Arts. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. And I think that brings us to the end of the Committee of Adjustment. So we need a motion now that the Committee of Adjustment reconvene as council to move into planning public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act 1990 as amended, to consider the following planning applications. And just while we get everything organized, I'll just review the some of the ground rules. That members of the public are participating virtually in this evening's public meetings and have previously provided notification to the municipal clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have any questions on any of the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Those who have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. I'll just quickly run through the order of proceedings. It's the same for every application, and it is as follows. I'll ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present the report, the staff report. Then the municipal clerk will provide additional comments received from circulated agencies as well as the public not included in the planning report. The applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to their application. Then the public will be asked for their comments and questions. Please remember to state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. Then the committee may ask questions of the applicant and or staff. And then we will consider motions regarding the applications. So, yeah, okay. So now, could we please have a mover and a seconder to move into planning session? would be Councillor Arts and Councillor Scott. Are any opposed? No, and so we are now sitting in the planning meeting. And I'll start with application 10.1, which is a zoning bylaw amendment for 8044 Decker Drive, filed by Derek Bean on behalf of Michael Ferrari. And Marion Cabral, our planner, will give an overview of the planning report, please.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll just share my screen with everyone to start. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see the location map up on the screen. The municipality did receive an application for zoning bylaw amendment on the lands known as 8044 Decker Drive. The lands are located on the northwest corner of Decker Drive and Cook Road and are approximately 5 hectares in area, or 12.5 acres. It does have frontage on both Decker Drive and Cook Road. So the applicant has requested a temporary use for up to 3 years in order to construct a new dwelling on the property while keeping the existing dwelling. So if you just refer to the sketch provided by the applicant, the existing dwelling is the larger of the portions highlighted in yellow. This is an existing barn, and then the new dwelling is proposed and it's outlined there. With the temporary use zone, once the new dwelling is built or at the end of the 3-year period, whichever comes first, the existing dwelling will be removed from the property. This requested application is generally consistent with policies of the PPS, County Official Plan, and the Middlesex Center Official Plan. And the application and sketch was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff. Staff didn't receive any comments from area residents, but we did receive a question from a neighbor who just wanted to know more about the application, but they did not express any concerns or any objections to this application. Additionally, staff had no objection to this proposal. However, Public Works and Engineering have requested that the applicant submit a deposit of $10,000 and enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality to ensure the removal of the existing residents promptly once either the new building is occupied and complete, or at the end of the 3-year period. As such, planning staff have determined that the requested zoning bylaw amendment for the temporary use zone for a period up to 3 years is consistent with all applicable policies, including the Middlesex Center Official Plan. And staff recommend that the application be approved and that the owner enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a deposit of $10,000. And I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Look to Mike. Okay, thank you. So Mike Ferrari is the owner. He's registered to speak and is on the line.
Hello, thank you for everything. Everything you said was absolutely perfect and is exactly what we're looking for.
Okay. We have no public members who have requested to participate as well. The clerk has received no additional comments. I'll entertain questions from the committee. I don't think there are any, so I'll go to the motion then. The motion before us is that zoning bylaw amendment applications ZBA 30/2020 filed by Derek Bean on behalf of Michael Ferrari to permit 2 single detached dwellings on one property for up to 3 years while a new residence is being constructed on the land be approved, and that the owner be required to enter into temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a deposit of $10,000 to ensure the removal of the existing residence. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Scott, and seconded by Councillor Shipley. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is granted then. And good luck with the house building. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good night then.
Have a good night.
Moving on to application 10.2, which is an application for zoning bylaw amendment filed by Connor Wilkes on behalf of Kildare Heights West. Marion, would you please give an overview of the planning report?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I'll just share my screen for context of the development. So the municipality has received an application for zoning bylaw amendment on lands known as Block 550 or 550, and that's part of the Kilworth Heights West subdivision in Kilworth. The lands are located on the south side of Glendon Drive and between Springfield Way and Crestview Drive. And the lands also abut the medium density development that was recently draft approved by council known as the Palumbo condominium development. And this was directly southwest of these lands. So the applicant is requesting that the open space zone exception 6, which is highlighted in yellow, be rezoned to urban residential third density exception 9, which is consistent with the rest of the block. The effect of the zoning would permit future medium density development on these lands. So the open space zone was placed on these lands as a result of archaeological resources that were found on the property. And as such, the zone does not permit any buildings or structures or site alteration. The applicant has provided documentation that a stage 4 archaeological mitigation was carried out on these lands, and that a complete excavation and removal of the archaeological resources was completed, and that no archaeological resources exist or are found on these lands. Additionally, the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport has also confirmed that the site no longer retained any cultural heritage value or interest and does not require any further archaeological investigation. The requested zone is generally, the requested rezoning is generally consistent with the PPS County Official Plan and Middlesex Center Official Plan, as the applicant has demonstrated that the archaeological resources will not be damaged on the site and that the requested zone is also appropriate for the site. As such, staff recommend that the application be approved, which will rezone the lands from open space exception 6 to urban residential third density exception 9 with the holding provisions of H3, H6, and H7, which is consistent with the rest of the block. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Connor Wilkes is the agent and has registered to speak. He's just come back. Okay. Just wait 1 second. There, he's on. You're up now, Connor.
Okay, perfect. I'm here through the phone. Madam Chair, thank you very much. I agree with everything that Ms. Cabral stated earlier, and satisfied with that.
Very well, thank you. I'll just note that no public members have requested to participate and no comments have been received by the clerk. I turn to the committee for questions then. I don't see, oh, yes, Councillor Arts, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't know whether this is a question for Connor or Marion. There's a, that goes with this, there's a Lincoln Environmental Consulting, and they talk about block 553 Windy site. I assume that's a green space because it's archaeological site or something. Like who, maybe it's got nothing to do with this, but who ends up with that in the end?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Arts, I'll try to answer this question. I know that there are 3 archaeological sites found within that subdivision. This one, and I believe there was a smaller portion that was located on developable lands. I'm not sure if the site that you're talking about specifically is one of those sites, but there is one that's also located in an open space in a public parks area in the subdivision. So that would eventually become part of the public space. And I don't know if Connor would be able to clarify that if he knows the exact site.
Yes, hello. So during the archaeological process through Derek Lincoln, they did identify 3 sites on there, and they individually named each site within the subdivision. And I believe the one that is being discussed now was labeled as the Windy site. I'm not sure why, but that's my understanding.
Are you good with that? Yes. Thank you. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions for the applicant or Marianne? I don't see any. Then I'll move to the next part, which is the motion. It reads that the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2820 is amended, filed by Connor Wilkes on behalf of Kilworth Heights West Limited to rezone the open space exception 6 zone to the urban residential third density exception 9 withhold 39 H3, H6, H7 as described by Marion, zone for the lands described as concession 1, part lot 7, part lot 8, and a number of plan numbers here, part 1 and 2, in the municipality of Middlesex Centre be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan, are there any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Wilkes. And Marion, we'll move now to slightly different format. So this would be applications 10.3 through 10.5 inclusive. So applications for draft plan of subdivision known as Poplar Hill Woods, 39T MC 2002 and 2003, known as Valley View A and B. So it's all three of those, Poplar Woods, Valley View A and B. Marion will give an overview of the planning report for the 3 subdivision files listed in the agenda, being 39T MC 1701, as well as 39T MC 2002 and 2003. We will then hear presentations from the applicants and the public. We've also received a number of correspondence items which have been distributed to council. Is everyone clear on the process here then? So it's a little bit different than normal, but I'll start then with, Marion. So if you could give the overview on that batch of applications, if you will, then we'll move through the next steps.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for council for kind of bracing with me as I go through this presentation. I'm going to give an overall explanation of all the developments, and the reason why we decided to present them all together is because they are all located roughly in the same area, in the same hamlet area of Poplar Hill and Coldstream, and really have the same policies and constraints affecting them. So I'll just quickly share my screen so we can get started. So hopefully everybody can see all the developments on the location map that I've provided. The first application is known as the Poplar Woods development. Now the municipality did receive this application in 2017. The applicant had submitted a plan of subdivision, an official plan amendment, and a zoning bylaw amendment applications at this time. We did circulated in 2017 and 2018, received a number of comments from agencies, and then we decided as staff members to also consider the other applications which were eminent. The second application is known as Valley View A, and this is located just west of the Valley View Public School in Coldstream. This applicant had also submitted a plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment application. And the final application is known as Valley View B, or the Brown development, and that might be a little bit more familiar to some members of the public or some of the council members who were there when this was previously approved on the site. And this is located just west of Coldstream Road. And again, the applicant had also submitted a plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment applications. So it should be noted that all three of these applications for development are located within the settlement area of Poplar Hill and Coldstream. A majority of the land that abut these properties are located just outside of the settlement boundary area and are considered agricultural, or there are a number of already developed lands along Ilderton Road or within the existing subdivisions with single family housing. And again, all three development proposals are proposed on private sanitary and water services. So first I'll discuss the Poplar Woods development proposal. The applicant is proposing a total of 10 building lots for single detached homes that range in size from 0.21 to 0.48 hectares in area. Lots 1, 2, and 10 would front onto Ilderton Road, and the remainder will front onto a proposed extension of Bowling Green. You also notice that there is a large block, which is block 11. This is actually on the southern portion of the lands, and it is proposed to be reserved for open space as a result of the significant woodland and wetlands and regulated area on this block. This block is also connected to the right-of-way with a little laneway between lots 6 and 7. Additionally, the regulated area extends from the open space block onto lots 5, 6, and 3, which is just under here. You also notice that the proposed lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are right here between Bowling Green Drive, are irregular, and this is as a result of the SO gas line that runs directly through the property on this angle. So the applicant has submitted also a plan of subdivision application along with an official plan amendment application, and this official plan amendment application is requesting that a special policy area is applied to the entirety of these lands in order to permit the creation of 10 lots on private services. The official plan policy only permits development of plans of subdivision with 3 or more lots on full municipal services. And again, the applicant has also requested a rezoning on these lands, and the rezoning would be from existing use to open space, and that would be just cover block 11 or where the woodlot is, and hamlet residential first density, and that would be applicable to all the lands that would be developed. So next I'll just give a brief overview of the Valley View A subdivision. The applicant here is requesting a total of 13 building lots for single family homes that range in size from 0.20 to 0.23 hectares in area. Lots 1 to 12 would front onto a new public roadway that would extend from Ilderton Road, and lot 13 is proposed to front onto Ilderton Road. Block is also proposed to be for stormwater management, which would accommodate a dry pond facility. The northern portion of the lands near the entrance of the development and lot 13 is also regulated by the Conservation Authority. And again, an official plan amendment was submitted with this application for to request that a special policy area is applied to the lands in order to permit the development of 13 lots on private services. In addition, the applicant is also requesting to rezone the lands to hamlet residential first density to accommodate the proposed lots. And finally, I will just give an overview of the Valley View B land, or the Brown lands, which is located just west of Coldstream Road. Again, this applicant is proposing a total of 13 building lots for single family homes that range in size from 0.23 to 0.48 hectares. Lots 1 through 13 would front onto a new public roadway that would exit onto Ilderton Road. And blocks 5 to 19 are also proposed for stormwater management. And these blocks are all kind of adjacent to the roadway that's proposed. The northern portion of the lands near the entrance is also regulated by the Conservation Authority. And again, that is where the entrance is located, and there's no development proposed there. I will also note that there is an existing draft approved plan of condominium on these lands, which would permit the development of 5 residential units and a private roadway. So if the applicant were to withdraw this application, they could always go forward with that plan of condominium, as it is still applicable to these lands. Again, the applicant has also applied for an official plan amendment that would also seek a special policy area in order to permit the creation of 13 lots on private services. And they also applied for a rezoning that would rezone the lands to hamlet residential first density, which again is consistent with the majority of the development in the area. So I'll also note that the Valley View A and the Valley View B land applications show that there are proposed roads that end in bulbs. And this is to accommodate the turning of municipal vehicles, including plows or emergency vehicles. Also, there is no development proposed beyond these 2 properties, as lands that they abut are outside of the settlement area. If in the future the municipality were to expand the settlement area and incorporate some of the lands that are surrounding it, we would eventually like to have that these subdivisions connect any future development. But again, nothing is planned right now. We have not received any applications, and nothing has been considered. Been considered outside of the settlement area. So again, there are a few reasons why staff did want to look at these 3 developments concurrently. And of course, one of the main reasons is to address water quality in the hamlet area. So as described, a total of 36 new units would be proposed on private well water and private septic systems. And the applicant has provided the appropriate reports and technical studies, which the municipality has sent out for peer reviewing by a third party. The provincial policy statement and the county official plan outline a hierarchy of services, and ultimately new development of this scale should occur on full municipal services. Where it is appropriate, development may occur on partial, communal, or private services. Further, and just to reiterate, Middlesex Centre's official plan, it expresses that a new subdivision with greater than 3 lots will require full municipal services. So notice of the applications were circulated to area residents. The staff received a number of phone calls and emails from residents before this public meeting and leading up to the days before tonight. We did receive a number of concerns and objections to the 3 developments, and by and large, a majority of the comments were very consistent throughout the three developments. So I'll just go over some of the biggest concerns. So again, the largest concern is how the current water supply will be affected with the increase of new development. Residents have expressed that wells are running dry at certain depths and that new development would exacerbate the situation. Additionally, there's concern about the increase in septic systems and how that would affect water quality. Some residents near the Valley View A and the Valley View B developments have expressed concern with water drainage that currently exists on their properties and as well as on the properties that are subject to these applications. There's either existing standing water, and then there's concern that the proposed stormwater management design and the overall development will increase water flow onto their properties and may even affect the Coldstream Conservation Area, which is located just on the north side of Ilderton Road. There's also concern about the increase in traffic and the hazards that presents, especially on Ilderton Road, where it does sort of curve in that area around the Valley View A and Valley View B developments. And primarily because there is a lack of sidewalks along Ilderton Road, and this is very common for residents or even students of the public school to walk along the shoulder of the road. Additionally, we did receive comments from agencies related to the approval of the subdivision. A majority of these comments can be reflected through conditions of draft plan approval or through zoning, such as comments from ESO for the Poplar Woods development or Canada Post or any of the other typical agencies. St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority has been very vital into the review of these 3 developments. They've provided comments related to each development. Specifically to the Poplar Woods development, because of the significant woodland and the wetlands that exist there, the Conservation Authority supports the approach to protect the features of the development, including measures such as monitoring the private septic systems and with the intention that they don't affect the wetland areas. So I did mention previously that staff reviewed all applicable policies related to these developments and are still looking through the proposals as it relates to the the servicing side of it. The proposals are generally consistent with settlement area policies. However, because of the services that are proposed for this development and our general approach to have full municipal services, we will continue assessing what might be appropriate for each site to reduce impacts on existing and future residents in the area. So the reports that are presented to council tonight as items 10.3, 10.4, and 10.5 are for information purposes, as staff would like to solicit feedback from council and from the public. So I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions from council now on the presentation from the planner? Yes, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor to Marion, I like the idea of the houses. It'd be kind of nice to support the school a bit better, but the water issue really scares me. And I was wondering maybe if this is the time to survey the residents of Coldstream and Poplar Hill if they're ever going to get lake water. Now is the time, or it's never going to happen. So maybe that should be incorporated in how we go forward. I'm not for sure if I'm speaking out of turn on that or not. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anybody else? Does anyone else want to ask a question at this time? Councillor Heffernan, go ahead, please.
Yes, through the mayor to Marion. Who is going to own the woodlot on Poplar Woods? Is that going to be public property, or is that still owned by whoever owns it now?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Heffernan, it was my understanding that that would be eventually dedicated to the municipality. And I don't know if we have any municipal staff that can speak to that specifically, but that was my understanding that that would be done that way. So it would be in public hands, either through the municipality or through the conservation authority.
Is this the opportunity to make comments, Madam Mayor, or I can't hear you?
I was muted, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask if your question about staff would, or who would take care of it if, oh, okay, Rob is on. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor, this, I suppose the answer would probably be better coming from Scott, but we've discussed it briefly. And given the direction that we've taken on other subdivisions with similar woodlots or natural features, the intent would be that we would not want ownership of it, that we would prefer that it remains in private ownership. I know currently it's shown right now with a walkway to it as if we were going to take ownership, but that would not be our preference.
Okay.
Thank you for the answer. Do you want to continue with your questions, Councillor?
Scott
jumped on.
Okay. Where do you go? There he is.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think Rob answered that. I think it'd be difficult for us to find a good use for it, and also recognizing that there's a park down the road. It's not like the area would be deficient in the park system. So I echo what Rob included there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, under the one report that was from EXP for both Valley View A and B, it says Coldstream has municipal groundwater supply to some residences. What is that about?
So through you, Madam Mayor, we've had some discussion with that internally, and I believe that to be an error in their report. We're unaware of any residences that have municipal supply.
Okay, thanks. I have lots of comments, but I'll leave that for the residents first.
Okay. Does anyone else want to jump in with anything at the present? Okay, I don't see anyone. In that case, I'll call now for the applicants for item 10.3. Ms. Roster and Mr. Wade are registered to speak to this item, known as subdivision Poplar Woods. And they're both here, I think. So if you can hear me, you can have the floor now if you'd like. There we go.
Your Worship, I'm waiting for the camera to come on in case you might like to see me speaking, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. My internet connection is not very stable tonight, so I apologize. There must be something going on with Execulink. I'm Barbara Oster, the planner retained in association with AGM, which is now the agent for the Poplar Woods applications. Also with me is Scott Allen from MHBC, who will speak to the Valley View A and B proposals, as well as Dan Wade and Lucas Grabowski of AGM, who are the engineers for all three projects and can speak to any servicing related things. Wait a minute, there, I can start the video. I just have a few introductory remarks with regard to the three applications that are supplementary to Marion's remarks. I just reiterate that all three properties are fully within the Poplar Hill Coldstream Hamlet area, and the proposed developments would essentially finish off the current extent of the hamlet. They've been within the hamlet since the official plan's approval in 2000, and they were not excluded during the trimming exercise that took place subsequent to the official plan approval. And no expansion into an agricultural area is involved with the proposals. Residential use is among the other uses that are permitted with the hamlet areas shown. And as Marion has indicated, the official plan amendments are required because of the numbers of lots. The amendments are not map related per se, but are policy related, meaning that there's no designation change that's proposed or no boundary change, although there will be a special policy area to allow these numbers of lots if they're approved. All the proposals have been the subject of extensive consultations with staff, which identified the reports and studies required to support the applications. Of note, together the proposals would total 36 lots in the 3 locations spaced along the same side of Ilderton Road, which is a relatively small number of lots, but suitable considering the size of the hamlet in the private servicing context. Approvals would provide a limited number of new lots and housing options in Coldstream, which in our view would assist the priorities of maintaining a sense of community for residents and enhancing the vitality and renewal of the Middlesex Center villages, big and small, and importantly, be supportive of the Valley View school enrollment. Marion's done a really good job of describing the Poplar Woods plan, and so I'm not going to repeat that other than to say it's fairly apparent by the aerial mapping that it's would be properly considered to be an infilling proposal. The lots that are proposed are sized quite consistently with existing residential development across the road and adjacent, and would complete the contemplated street pattern by the extension of Bowling Green Drive. No lots would extend into the woodlot, which should be subject to the same zoning restriction as the abutting wooded land. And consultation did occur with the pipeline owner as to the easement, and its requirements have been taken into account. As Marion noted, the original submission took place in 2017. And after that time, the comments from staff and agencies were taken into consideration with supplementary and follow-up reports, and the property changed ownership and further consultation took place. So there's been a lot of activity going on. 7 new studies were submitted along with, which included an email follow-up. So that was part of the supporting the submission that took place in August of 2020. My job was to prepare an addendum to the planning justification report, which I did not prepare. And the reason for that was we had, as you know, a new PPS. So that needed to be taken into account in my view. There'd been no changes to the Middlesex County plan or the Middlesex Center plan, but the new PPS needed to be taken into account. The original planning justification report did come to a number of conclusions of note, and I'll just highlight 2. Implementation of the proposed development would represent an opportunity, excuse me, to facilitate residential infilling and efficient use of the subject lands. And the proposed development would represent good land use planning. In my addendum, I came to a supplementary opinion, taking into account the reports and studies that were prepared subsequent to the original submission, and in particular, the functional servicing report from AGM and review of previous hydrogeological work. The supplementary opinion was that the proposed plan of subdivision would be consistent with the PPS and in conformity with the Middlesex County and Middlesex Center official plans. As to zoning, it seemed to me that a site-specific hamlet residential first density zone would be appropriate, consistent with the HR 1-1 zoning of surrounding lands. It has a slightly larger minimum lot frontage, which would be appropriate to all but one of the Poplar Woods lots, and that the open space zoning should apply to the wood lot. On servicing, the review that I conducted of the supporting studies indicated that the proposed lot sizes were appropriate and that private services were adequate and would safely service the proposed development. And my opinion is that the proposed approvals would represent an opportunity for residential infilling with suitable private services comprising sound land use planning, again, consistent with the PPS, and in conformity with the applicable plans. So I don't want to talk too long. As I've mentioned, Scott Allen would like to speak to Valley View A and B, and Dan Wade and Lucas Grabowski are here to speak to servicing. So I thank you, Your Worship, and council and staff, and we'd be prepared to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for that presentation. I'll ask then, are there questions from council on the presentation that you've just heard? Wayne, is that, I see a hand. He's got a hand up? That's just, I've got a hand on, just a fake hand. Okay, it's all right then. It's just one of those little hands, that raised hand symbol. Okay, in that case, I don't see any other questions, and I think I can now call for the applicants for number 10-4 and 10-5. I've got listed Scott Allen, Dan Wade, and Lucas, who are going to speak to the plans of subdivision for Valley View A and B. I see two. There we go, all three.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. It's Scott Allen from MHBC Planning. We are acting on behalf of the applicant for both Valley View applications. And as you've heard, Dan Wade and Lucas Grabowski are all from AGM are also available in attendance to answer general questions relating to site servicing. At this time, I'd like to provide a few brief comments to supplement the presentations provided by Ms. Cabral and Ms. Rosser. At the outset, I'd like to just emphasize to council that both Valley View proposals were designed by the project team as low-density residential subdivisions that would accommodate a scale and type of development that we felt would be appropriate for these lands and compatible with the local community character. I also wanted to, again, because there's been quite a bit of discussion on the background of this development and these three developments, I'll be brief, but I just wanted to touch on a few matters relating to the design considerations. With respect to both of the subdivisions, as you've heard, they're both 13 units, single attached units, or what they're to accommodate. And then generally proposed lot configurations are to reflect the layouts of the existing residential subdivisions in the community. Also, Ms. Cabral discussed the fact that there is a 5-unit plan of condominium on the Valley View B site. I just wanted to advise that the approved condominium design provides for much larger lots than are now being proposed, as the applicant is seeking to promote a more efficient design that's more in keeping with the local development context, which is again the 13-unit design proposed before you tonight. With respect to servicing studies were completed by AGM, EXP, and BOS Engineering, and were required as part of a complete application by Middlesex Center. These studies were carried out to demonstrate that the planned residential development can be accommodated with individual private services. And I'm not 100% sure if Ms. Cabral spoke to the fact that there's a peer review of the servicing studies that's underway. I may have missed that. But again, we're awaiting comments from that peer review, and those will certainly be taken into consideration as project planning advances, and there'll be plenty of discussions with staff in response to that peer review. I'd also like to mention that both sites will be serviced with stormwater management facilities, internal sidewalks linking to Ilderton Road, and a single access to that road. There will also be turning lanes provided on Ilderton Road for access to both developments. And as part of MHBC's work preparing the planning justification reports for these applications, we review the proposed designs with consideration for the planning policy framework applying to both properties. And I don't plan to go into detail with respect to the planning analysis at this time, but I'd like to advise council that, in our opinion, the proposals are consistent with the 2020 PPS, conform to the county's official plan, and align with the objectives and policy directions of the Middlesex Center official plan, recognizing a special policy area be required to permit the developments. And also the Hamlet residential first density zone, the HR1 zones proposed for these lands, is commonly applied in Poplar Hill Coldstream, and variations of that zone are currently applied to a portion of the Valley View A site and all of the Valley View B site. And finally, in response also to Ms. Ross's comments, it's anticipated from our perspective that both these projects will contribute positively to the community, and the developments will help support a number of community facilities, local activities, most notably the Valley View Elementary School. In light of these considerations, we respectfully request that Council advance these applications for future consideration. And again, we'll be glad to answer any questions that arise this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. I'll ask Council, are there questions on this presentation? I don't see any. We'll now hear from the delegations who have registered to speak to these plans of subdivisions. Note that Council has also received a number of items of correspondence which have been distributed to members and staff. The first person that is registered to speak is Sharon McMillan.
Sharon is not on the line.
Okay, move to the next one. We have Derek and Lisa Nixon registered as well. They're here. Okay. Just wait till they come on. There we go.
All the others are here.
Are you there, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us speak to this matter. Our biggest concern is the drainage for, I believe it's Valley View B, which is closest to us. We live at 10247 Ilderton Road, which is 2 houses east of the fire hall. Or maybe that's, is it A? I'm not sure. But currently the drainage ditch runs right along the back of our property and it is at capacity. So what will happen with that? Like, will they be digging that deeper, wider to take in the overflow from the subdivision?
That was a comment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I just want to highlight that in a public meeting, it's an opportunity for everyone to ask questions and for the people who are working on the project on engineering or planning issues and questions about, I don't know, sidewalks and turning lanes to take notes and in essence, what you're doing is giving them their homework.
Okay.
So it's not a big debate about, you know, is this better or that better or so on, but the comments that you've expressed, they go, oh, okay, I know where she lives. I know where their home is. The water runs this way. They're concerned about this, and they'll be noting all of these things. So go ahead and go through your list of questions and make sure that we can get all of the input that you want to give.
Okay, well, you've listed most of our concerns were the water supply, the septic, mostly the drainage and the traffic flow. So I looked at the proposed plan for, they have a dry well storage lot 6 or 15, I believe. And I was just wondering, will they be explaining how they're going to connect into this drainage ditch that runs along the back of our property? So I'm assuming this will come later on, the answers to these questions.
We do have the engineer. I think maybe that's a general question about the block 15 and 14 is what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, we have 2 engineers who are available to speak to questions like that. Maybe they can highlight some of their thinking and planning considerations in their part of the project.
Okay.
I don't know where they went.
Here, they're just not showing.
Oh, they're not showing
on screen. I'm going to ask them to unmute.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, I can.
Dan's here. Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so from lot 15, or which is the open space block where the stormwater management pond is proposed to be sited, it will discharge across the lands immediately to the west and over to that existing drain. Now, we don't have a lot of topographic information in that area, but in promoting our design down the road, we need to do a bit more research over there, but there will have to be some improvements across that And that was part of down the road, we would be having discussions with the landowner there.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Dan. Was there anything else you wanted to continue with, Lisa?
No, I'll let the next people talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. We have June Hale registered to speak next. Here she comes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, June. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is June Hale, and I live at 3 Marsh Lane. In 1995, my husband and I bought our home in the hamlet of Coldstream. Little did we know at the time, we had purchased a little slice of heaven. The points that I wish to address are as follows: the recent history, current density in our neighborhood, and light pollution. The Coldstream I wish to talk about is made up of 2 parts. The west part stretching from the Sydenham River Bridge to Valley View Public School, and the east part stretching from Valley View Public School to Coldstream Road. The addition of a new fire hall and a new house currently being constructed at 10393 Ilderton Road are the only significant changes we have seen in the 25 years that we have lived here. The property at 10283 Ilderton Road being considered for development has changed hands 3 or 4 times in 25 years. Previous owners have told us they wanted to build further back from the road, but all requests were denied. The west part from the river to the school has 17 houses. The proposed development at 10283 will add 13 new houses. These 13 new houses would increase in density for the west area by 76%. The east part from Valley View Public School to Coldstream Road now has 8 houses, and the proposed development at 10379 will add 13 houses. These 13 new houses would increase the density for the east area by 162.5%. Now, you may put the 2 proposals together and combine the densities, and you would come up with increased density for the entire area of 104%, essentially doubling the current density in a very short time, which up until now has remained unchanged for decades. The third point I wish to speak on is light pollution. I didn't find anything in the reports referencing restrictions on light pollution from street lighting. To many, light pollution is something they have never really thought about. You need light for safety. But if you look toward London, Strathroy, and Ilderton, you will see a glow of light in the night sky. This is not desirable for a rural area. In conclusion, 2 13-house subdivisions will change the feel of this area of Coldstream from a cozy rural hamlet to a high-density suburban landscape. House density, which has remained constant for 25 years, will double from 25 to 51 homes in a very short time. In my opinion, this is too much growth in too short a time. Let me quote from the January 13th issue of the Middlesex Banner, in which Mayor DeVee was asked about what people were saying about the official strategic plans for Middlesex Center. She said, and I quote, What they talk about were things like small town feel and more sense of community. I wish to echo those remarks for the hamlet of Coldstream, a rural hamlet with a strong sense of community. I would like to believe that in 25 years hence, our little slice of heaven will still exist. Our children and grandchildren, when they visit Coldstream, will still be able to marvel at how many stars there are in the sky. A Coldstream with black skies and fireflies too. Please vote no to proposed changes for 10283 Ilderton Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your input. Next. Yep. She's here. Okay. I've been told that Chair McMillan is on the line now. Sharon, if you'd like to do your presentation. Dan? Sorry.
No, it's Dan.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
It's Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't
go ahead,
seem-
please.
Yeah, some of you know us very well. We've lived at 10365 Ilderton Road since 1975. And during that time, we've had some experience with surface water coming across our property. And I read in the report of the one of the engineering reports, and I quote here, runoff from the subject lands drain westerly across through neighboring properties before entering the road drain. Now we've had that experience in the past, and in fact had to modify our well and in fact abandon that well and put a drilled well in instead. So we'd like to make sure that the surface drainage is addressed and that the stormwater management pond is going to accommodate that. My second point was with the respect to the hydrogeological report. I see in that there's a recommendation that nitrate levels, background levels be taken from the neighboring wells. Many of you know that I was a public health inspector for 40 years and took water samples and did well inspections and sewage disposal system inspections. So I would really like to see these nitrate levels being checked for background existing level before the developments are done, and then again annually after the development is done. I also reviewed the individual septic tank systems report, and I didn't have any issues with that. It seems to be very well done, very comprehensive, but it does note that these individual septic systems will in fact increase nitrate levels, and that could be a significant impact. So that indicates that these nitrate background levels should be done. I think that the nitrate samples should also be taken for annually after the development is completed and until such time as the township assumes the subdivision. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'll answer any questions.
Okay. I think we can move to the next person. Yes. Okay, thank you, Dan. We're going to move on now to Kristen Cheryl Brown.
Kristen Cheryl are not on the line, so let's move to Julie.
Very well. I will move to Julia Armstrong then next, please.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I'm Chris Brown. Are you hearing me or?
Oh, you're showing up as Julia.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there. You'll have to excuse my ignorance. I'm not
No,
Zoom.
No, I don't think it's you. So we can just go ahead with the Browns?
Let's
Yes.
just have Chris
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you very much for your time, Madam Mayor and Councillor. Yes, I've been here. My wife and family have been here for 30 years. We live just adjacent to the Valley View A, and I'd like to talk again briefly on the water and the flow of the water. Every year, spring and fall, and during heavy rains, our backwater, our backyard is flooded quite extensively with water, which then drains off across the agricultural field. I note that they've got Block 15 as the stormwater pond. Being the lowest point in this area, I would think that the pond, and I'm certainly not an engineer, but the pond I would think would be at the lowest area, maybe I'm wrong, which would be lot 12. It's the lowest part of the area. Like I said, I've been here for 30 years, seen a lot of things come and go in that back lot. I was just wondering about if that would be a consideration as well. Again, to reiterate about the wells, I'm very concerned about the wells in the area because I think 3 people in the close vicinity have had to drill wells in the last 3 years, which to me is very concerning. A lot of us have shallower wells, 30, 40 feet. Not really sure what wells cost, somewhere between $10,000 to $40,000 to drill. That's a really concern for myself and my family, and the quality of the water that we have now versus what we will have. As you start putting these houses in, I'm sure a lot of them will have pools, possibly irrigation systems, this sort of thing. I'm very concerned about the water table here. Going with Councillor Hartz, maybe it is a time to take a look at bringing town water down the road and to see what that would cost. I know that the development behind Valley View about 10 years ago was squashed because there was too much septic and too much water and too many wells in the area to sustain it. I'm not really sure what has changed since then. I'm sure that, maybe there's been studies done. Has there been studies done? Maybe there has, maybe there hasn't. That I'm not really sure about. And moving that, if you were to be able to move that stormwater pond to lot 12, you would take a lot less of the agricultural land away because, you're really cutting across that property, really making it hard for that guy to bring his crops in because you'll come right across. So just a thought. And yeah, I guess most of it, and with the roadway, again, very busy road, a lot of truck traffic, 50 kilometers an hour, yes, 80 kilometers an hour, fairly common. With your turning lanes, I'm not sure whether you'd have to widen that road to put turning lanes in or not. I'm not sure how you would do that on that road, how the turning lanes would work. Very concerned about the children in the area and the people that walk every morning and every night for exercise. That's about what and I'm just worried about too. I have a very small home. I'm assuming they're going to put very substantial homes on this area. What would happen to the property values in the area for us smaller homeowners? My home is quite small. So there's another concern of mine as well. And I really appreciate your time. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm Chris and Cheryl Brown at 10273 Ilderton Road. And I'm sorry that the Zoom was a mix-up. It was maybe on my part, I'm not sure.
No, don't worry. It's technology and we just work with what it all works out. So
Sure.
We've got your input and that was the whole reason for being here tonight.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Appreciate your time as well. Thank you. Julia? Yes, Julia, you're on next. We have Julia Armstrong.
Hi there. Thank you very much for this opportunity to express some concerns. I have lived at Coldstream with my husband for over 30 years and have had the privilege of raising our 2 children here, which was just absolutely wonderful. My concerns and comments will touch on housing, safety, and conservation issues. The proposed subdivisions are very large, and I feel that that doesn't give for any diversity or any chance for people wanting to downsize and still stay in the area, or children that are having their own children. The houses are so big that they lose out on that opportunity to live here. The second one is the safety, and I know that's been touched on. I was just looking at if every one of the new subdivisions go forward and everyone has at least their minimum 2 vehicles, that's 72 additional vehicles that will be going up and down the road. And I feel unsafe walking and try to avoid walking in the busy times on the Ilderton Road. So I think something should be done there to provide better safety. And the third thing, there certainly seems to be a lot of coyotes and deer and fox in the area behind Valley View A and B. And I wonder if there shouldn't be more an assessment of what that will do to the area there, and how that population will affect the children and the pets in that area too. Okay, thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for coming on tonight, Julia. Is it Carol Lee Cecil? Yeah, okay, so we have Carol Lee Cecil has registered to speak next. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Of course, my timer just timed out and it shut itself off. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to start the video here because I do have a few things to show you. Will you see my screen or no?
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
Yeah, but will you see what's on my screen?
They can do a share if they use the share screen.
If you're using share screen function, then we will be able to see what you put up.
Okay, I don't know where, oh, there it is, okay. Share screen, wow, okay, sorry about that. I don't know what it's saying. Window or screen to share. The entire screen, okay. Sorry, I didn't know I had to do that. Can you see it?
No, suddenly I got very large on my screen.
So
yeah, preview. I don't know, for some reason maybe we're sharing your screen. Just a sec here. Stop sharing. Right there.
Where'd that come from?
That's their shared screen.
That's theirs?
To get up. Yeah, so they've now got it up correct.
Okay, oops.
Oh,
it
okay.
went up correctly. And
okay, good. All right. All right, so first of all, what I want to show you is, start my video. Oh, I don't know. Wow. Sorry, I just keep getting all these pop-ups for the screen. All right, what I wanted to show you was an original, just a sec here. All right, can you see now or no? Can you see that?
Carol Lee, this is the municipal clerk.
Yeah.
See, you're having some technical difficulties with the share screen. If you have a document you have submitted previously, I'd be pleased to share.
No, this is one I had just found. I'm not sure why.
At this time, I would ask you to provide your comments over video and audio and to submit any documents that you wish to have submitted following the meeting to my email.
Okay.
Okay. All
Can
right.
you see it now? Just since we're
all listening now.
Okay. You can't see the picture I have up?
No.
Nope. Okay. Well, then I'll just talk about it. So originally, when Valley View B, it was 5 lots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have the actual, well, actually, I can probably show you guys like this. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'll send it and you guys can see it. But there's a comment here that says additional lands owned by the applicant. Well, that's no longer the case for Valley View B from when this was originally asked for by the Browns. So I was just curious if it was approved because they also owned the additional lands. So I'll put that to you guys. I don't know the answer to that, but that might have an impact to what's going on today, because when you talk about the original site plan of 5 lots, the Browns owned both the farmland and the proposed subdivision Valley View B. Okay, so take that into consideration. One other question I had is there some sort of regulation or bylaw surrounding common areas in subdivisions? And if there is, one of my concerns about Valley View B is that there's all these little tiny chunks, all these blocks 16, 17, 18, and 19, that are just these little chunks here, there, and everywhere that really can't be common space because you can't utilize it. It's so small. One of my other concerns about Valley View B is that Block 15 is classed as an open space, and it's 12 feet wide, and it's the length of a lot, and it's like a walkway right on to our farmland. I would like to discourage people from just coming onto the farmlands and trampling crops. So I just don't think that's a good spot for that potential walkway. The other thing that I submitted was some distances, basically to the bush lot that we have, which is also classed as, sorry? Yeah, a natural heritage feature. Now, conservation-wise, you know, I can attest to the fact that there's a lot of wildlife in there, and both of Valley View A and B are quite in proximity to that heritage space. And to me, that would totally disrupt the wildlife that's in that area, because Valley View A is actually right at the corner of the bush. So that's a concern from a construction perspective, from noise, from light. We already have some issues with people trespassing in that bush there. Of course, you know, I'm not presuming that people that are going to move potentially in A and B are going to trespass into our bushland, but you know, it's a possibility. So just for all those reasons, I'd certainly like to discourage that these go ahead. Also, I was curious as to the open space that's on Valley View B, that's right behind lots 11, 12, and 13. Is that part of the development, or who owns that right now? I wasn't sure about that. So that was just more of a question on my part. When June Hale talked about the percentages of the development doubling, she talked about 13 lots and 13 lots, but in essence, it's all 36 lots. So the percentages, I think, would even increase based on that. Just a sec here. And also, these supporting documents, these studies, I didn't have access to them. I haven't had a chance to view them. When I went on the website of the municipality, there were no supporting documents. So I'm not sure if they've just been put on since I've went there, but I haven't had a chance to look at the septic and the hydrogeological studies. And somewhere somebody spoke about that there was some some residents on municipal water. So that was corrected as being not correct, but if that's has been taken into factor for the hydrogeological study, I would say that they might have to look at that again. So I just want to ensure that that isn't factored in. I have some concerns about future costs when you start talking about stormwater management and all that sort of stuff. Increased development is going to increase the need for drainage. And we already pay a stormwater management monthly fee, so I'm assuming that that would go up. The other thing is we talk about, well, maybe this is a good time to look at municipal water. Well, all the residents in the area have already put out tens of thousands of dollars in wells, and we just put one in 2 years ago. So the cost is substantial. Well, you can't run a municipal project without the buy-in of everybody along that line, whether they're going to use it or not. It's either going to show up in their taxes or as a supplemental cost. Well, I think you're negating the fact that everybody's already put a ton of money into their water source. So I'm concerned about the additional costs. And this,
Carol,
yeah,
you've got about a minute.
Okay. So the schools, you're also assuming that that those people that will move there will have children. And also, you talked about the efficient use of the lands. Well, sometimes less is more. Efficiency doesn't come about by having more houses. I think you're just taxing the area. So I think for us, it's about conservation. It's about owning agriculture land. I think I'm going to get a lot of complaints about dust and noise and tractors being out at midnight on, that sort of thing. Well, 26 people are not going to be happy with harvest time and spraying time. And so that's going to be a problem. Okay, thank you.
Well done. 9:32.
All righty.
Okay. I have Grant McCall next. There he is.
One additional delegate.
There we are.
Hello, Grant. We can hear you.
I think Carol has covered a lot of my issues. I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
You're in agreement with the positions that she's expressed. I just want to be clear.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you nodding and smiling and saying, yes, my points have been made. And I have one more person then. I have Alison Vickard next.
How do I shut that off? Mute.
Bottom left-hand corner.
Bottom left.
Okay, there's Alison too. She's on?
They're on. They're not really, we're not seeing any audio or video. I didn't have this person on my list, but we'll go ahead and move forward.
Ready?
Oh, she's okay. She's got sound.
That was Barbara Ross.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we
Alison's gone then.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I need to move on. I don't think we've made the connection. So are there any questions from council on all of those presentations or points that people raised that you want to highlight, ask about, question? I don't see any. Well, in that case, we've gone through the process in a slightly different order, and we've ticked all the boxes in terms of getting all of the people a chance to speak. Then I will ask for a motion to receive all of the applications for information. And the motion reads that reports planning 11/2021 regarding Poplar Woods files 39T, MC 1702, OPA, and ZBA be received for information, and that report PLA regarding Valley View A files 39T MC 2002, OPA 51, and ZBA 16/2020 be received for information. And further, that report PLA 13/2021 regarding Valley View B files 39T, Middlesex Center, I guess, 2003, OPA 52, and ZBA 17/2020 be received for information. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Arts, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Brennan. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, then those are carried. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and your input and your patience with technology. That brings us to the end of that one, and we can move on to application for consent B 25/2020 now. And this will be presented by Dan again. There he is. You get to sandwich the presentations.
Through the chair, thank you, Madam Mayor, and to all members of council. You started with me and you're going to end with me tonight, so.
We are.
The purpose and effect of consent application B 25/2020 is to sever a 131.6 square meter parcel of the subject land and convey it to the abutting residential property that is municipally known as 125 Erie Ave as a lot addition. The effect of the application is a minor increase in total lot area for the property at 129 Erie Ave. So for everyone's benefit, I will just share my screen so that everyone can see the lands that we're referring to here. The application before council today is, again, with respect to 129 Erie Ave, which is located on the north side of Erie Ave, on the west side of the intersection at Erie Avenue and Springer Street in Kamoka. The subject property is a 1,438 square meter parcel with a frontage of approximately 36.5 meters on Springer Street. The subject land is designated settlement area according to the County of Middlesex official plan and residential in the Middlesex Center official plan. The parcel proposed to be severed and conveyed is zoned urban residential first density exception UR1-4 in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The applicant is requesting consent for a lot addition to transfer a 131 square meter parcel of land from 129 Erie Ave to be consolidated with the existing property at 125 Erie Ave. The lands proposed to be retained would maintain a frontage on Erie Avenue of approximately 35.7 meters and an area of approximately 1,305 square meters. The lands that are proposed to be enlarged would have a frontage of approximately 18.8 meters on Erie Avenue and an area of approximately 687 square meters. The lands were previously subject to a consent application whereby 125 Erie Ave was created. The property is within the settlement area where severances and lot additions are permitted. Therefore, planning staff find that the subject application conforms to the local official plan. Additionally, the proposed conveyance would comply with the minimum frontage and area provisions in the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw. Additionally, planning staff do not anticipate any negative impacts with the surrounding land uses, as they will both be used for residential purposes. So given the above, planning staff are recommending that the subject application be approved, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the planning report. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Dan. The owner and neither the owner nor applicant nor any public members have registered to ask questions or to participate in the process. So I'll move to council. Do you have any questions on the presentation? I don't see any. So the motion before us is that the consent application B16/2020 filed by Erica Sewer on behalf of Scott McGregor in order to sever and convey as a lot addition 131.6 square meters parcel of land to an existing residential property known municipally as 125 Erie Ave from a property legally described as part lots 11 and 12 in the Block G, Plan 76, Municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, be granted, and that the consent be subject to 5 conditions as in your package of reading. And further, that the reasons for granting the consent application include that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the proposal conforms with the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Central official plan, and that the application conforms to the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Scott, and seconded by Councillor Arts. Is anyone in opposition to that? Seeing none, this has carried. I'd ask that a motion that Planning Committee does now close the planning public meetings and reconvene the regular meeting of Council at 9:40 p.m. A mover, please. Councillor Heffernan, and seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Brennan. Any opposed? Okay, we are now out of public meetings. We have 6 correspondence items. Are there any comments on any of these? Seeing none, then the motion is that correspondence items 11.1 through 11.6 listed on the January 20th, 2021 Council agenda be received for information, and further that the Council of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre supports the 2021 census and encourages all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca as accurate and complete census data programs support programs and services that benefit our community. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan, any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. I'll turn to you now, Deputy Mayor Brennan, to provide an update on the County Council meeting, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start off with the County Budget Committee is meeting on February 17th, 18th, and 19th to start formalizing the county budget. There's a follow-up meeting on the 25th and 26th of February if they're needed for further questions, and they hope to finalize the budget for the county sometime in March. Mayor DeVete is part of that committee, so if you have any further questions, you can direct them her way. The county and Middlesex Center have signed an agreement with the library in Illerton. The new addition on the library, 1,193 square feet for the early childhood learning center, and 1,870 feet storage in the lower part of the library. So they have signed that agreement. The county, much as we have done, has made a bylaw not allowing off-road vehicles on their roads except for agricultural and emergency vehicles. The strategic plan of the county that's just been finalized is now in place, and it will go from 2021 to 2024, and we'll cover that period. Southwest Middlesex severed a 100-acre farm into 2 50-acre parcels. That came to the county, and that was is going to be appealed by the county. We do not agree with it. It was on a weighted vote, 44-13, to appeal that to the tribunal to reject that. Our Women's Caucus of the county is continuing to meet. They're going to have a full report in February. They do have an event, a webinar coming up on Thursday, February the 4th, where they're hoping to get a bunch of women talking again about issues during the COVID pandemic. The county is looking at switching from e-agenda to e-scribe, the same as we're using now. The e-agenda is running out its usefulness, so the county's going to switch to e-scribe also, the same as what we use. There's some population expectations for the county we're talked about, and we're still not 100% sure. I think talking to Michael today, how accurate they are, and we're going to have further discussions for our municipality, how accurate we think these population expectations are through up till 2046. Strathmere Lodge, all the residents have received their first dose of Pfizer vaccine. The staff from there will have to go to London for their vaccine when it's available. And the Strathmere Lodge does have a waiting list for people to go into the facility. More funds for the county are coming for COVID, approximately $357,000. SWIFT is starting their project, a $12 million project in the county. It's going to go to 2,042 premises, 189 kilometers of fiber optics down the roads, at a cost of approximately $63,500 per kilometer. The county has finalized a new contract with its inside employees, and everything went fairly well there. There's some give and take, and that's been passed. Those were the basic items on the agenda. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the deputy? Okay, thank you very much for the update, Deputy Mayor Brennan. And now we'll move to other business. I haven't been told of any, and I don't see any coming. And then we have the bylaws. We have bylaws number 002 through 007. And the motion for us is that the bylaws 2021 numbers 002 through 7 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Arts and Councillor Shipley, thank you very much. Any opposed? None, and those are carried. And finally, we need an adjournment motion that the Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the January 20th, 2021 meeting at, and I shut my other machine off, 9:47. A mover, please. Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott. Any opposed? None. And that is everything for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone, for changed procedures and lots of reading. And I will see you next time.